with rumors swirling that Benjamin Netanyahu had in fact been killed, and that it was an AI video speech that he gave the other week in which he had allegedly 6 fingers. In order to quell these online rumors, Benjamin Netanyahu posted a video of himself getting a coffee, which itself has spurred even more conspiracy theories that he might have been harmed or is in hiding and that this is in fact an AI video. Behold!
מה שאלת אותי?
ראש הממשלה אומרים ברשת שאתה בכלל מת?
And hold on one second. I'm actually going to read this. Hold on. Let me bring my ugly face in here right now. I'm going to read this just so that people who are listening on podcast will understand what's going on. It's in Hebrew, and I'll turn the volume down and read the audio. But here's the video. Behold.
מה שאלת אותי?
ראש הממשלה אומרים
Do you
ברשת שאתה
think
בכלל
people
מת?
online aren't saying
אני מת
you're
על
dead?
קפה, אתה יודע
I love
מה?
coffee.
אני מת על העם שלי.
I love my
איך
people.
הם מתנהגים,
The way
פנטסטי.
it's behaving,
אתה רוצה
fantastic.
לספור את מספר
Do
אצבעות?
you want to count the number of
Follow.
fingers? Can you show us? Here, 5. Here. Did
היית?
you? Very nice.
מאוד.
לחיים.
Cheers.
ראש הממשלה מסר לאנשים שיוצאים
Message to the people who
ומתאווררים.
are going to
לצאת
say, get carried.
להתאוורר,
This is
אבל
going very
ליד
fast.
מרחב מוגן. והעמידה שלכם היא מדהימה.
Okay, your resilience is
נותנת
amazing.
כוח
It
לי,
gives strength
לממשלה,
to the government,
לצה"ל,
to the
למוסד.
IDF, to the
אנחנו עושים דברים
Mossad. We're doing things
לא יכול
I
לשתף,
can't share
ברגע
right
זה, אבל
now.
עושים דברים
But we're
מכים
striking
באיראן חזק
hard in
מאוד גם
Iran
ביום
today,
הזה.
Lebanon.
גם בלבנון.
2.
ממשיכים.
counting.
אתם אומרים לי
You're
להמשיך,
teaching me to keep going.
אני אומר לכולכם,
I say to all of you,
גם אתם
we must
תמשיכו.
continue. That's
תמשיכו
right.
להישמע להוראות פיקוד העורף,
Continue to
כל
follow the home
הזמן,
front
להישמע
instructions,
להוראות פיקוד
follow the
העורף,
home front's commands,
וגם לראשי
instructions,
הערים,
and mayors.
להיות
Always
תמיד
stay
ליד
near a
מרחב
protected
מוגן.
space.
ואנחנו נקל ככל שהדבר
We'll make
ניתן.
things as easy as possible.
ותודה לך על הקפה, הוא
Thank
מצוין.
you for the coffee.
אני לא יודע לגבי הקלוריות, זה נראה
I
לי
don't know how many
מסוכן.
calories are in this. Actually, I can still sort of understand a reasonable amount of that. The internet is playing sleuth by going to the POS and claiming that the POS, the point of sales, in the back, which we can't really see on this version, says February 15, 2024. Other people are claiming right here that his hand in the pocket. That actually does look weird when I go to look at that. Well, that just could be some artifacting. That moment right there. Well, you know what? Now I'm saying that actually kind of looks weird. I'm not buying into any of it, people. Let's take this out. I'm not buying into any of it for the time being, for a number of reasons, one of which is we see this happen in times of crisis. Theories that are, on the one hand, I don't say ludicrous, because it's not ludicrous that Benjamin Netanyahu might have been, injured or whatever by Iranian strikes. It's possible. More likely than not is that he's actually just not in Israel and doesn't want to show to the people that he's not in Israel. The outlandish parts of this is that if Benjamin Netanyahu had in fact been injured or killed by an Iranian strike, that Israel and America wouldn't use that as the excuse if it needed another one to go even more full hog on Iran. It would be the political sacrifice that, to a cynical perspective, if you wanted to wage an even harder war with Iran, a war that's not a war, that's what you would want. So the idea that he might have been injured or killed in an Iranian strike and they wouldn't use that as an excuse to go even harder on Iran logically doesn't make sense. As a matter of fact, I went and watched that video. What you are seeing, and it's the same thing that happens with every time of crisis, is overt specific disinformation that in a fog of war, when people are running to be first to the internet or first to prove a theory, people will jump on and it will be debunked and they will look foolish afterwards and they will have discredited themselves. And the more prominent, the more reliable the voice, the greater the accomplishment. When that screenshot came out, and we covered it last week, allegedly from the IDF or the Israeli military's Twitter account saying the rumors of his death are unconfirmed. Like, that's weird. They wouldn't even ever say something like that. It turned out to be a fake screenshot. And then the 6 fingers images, well, then you go and you get the original video, not some pixelated re-upload of the video, where they take it in the pixelated motion to make it, at some point it looked like he had 6 fingers. Like when you do this, look, oh my God, I got 10 fingers. And they get people to repeat these demonstrably disproven stories to discredit themselves. In this one, there's that screenshot of the POS, point of sale, saying, oh, it's February 15th, 2024. The AI based it on a prior visit. Apparently that coffee shop didn't open until 2025. There are some rumors right now that that coffee shop might actually have been closed. I would presume if Netanyahu's going to go to that coffee shop, they would close it. But set that aside. People are now circulating what they purport to be the sharpened version of a blurry screenshot of that POS saying this was from February 15, 2024, when in reality, you go to the clearer video, you can pretty much see, I mean, you can read it the way you want. It says March 15, 2026. And in the screenshots that are circulating, it's a blurry 6 that, you could see a 4 if you want to see that. But they want people to make the mistakes of recirculating, regurgitating bunk stories so they can discredit people the way they used the Sandy Hook alleged hoax to discredit Alex Jones. And the way they use other conspiracy theories to get people to repeat disinformation so they can be discredited them, and that they can then argue you can't rely on these people. Look what we've done. We've taken out, by way of disinformation campaigns, some of the more popular, more reliable voices. So I will certainly never be the first for the purposes of being first. And if I ever make I remember all of my mistakes. The SoulNet. It was an account called SoulNet, and it was the tweet that Joe Rogan talked about on his show about taking the jab. And I saw this and I I went and DM'd the person and said, tagged the person and said, is this tweet real? And then they blocked me. I'm like, oh, okay, the tweet's real. I remember that mistake. I haven't made that same mistake again. Get traumatized by your own mistakes to make yourself not make those mistakes, and just hope. Everybody is going to make a mistake from time to time. Just hope that it's a mistake of limited consequence that you can use to actually show that you are honest, loyal, have integrity, will correct and will apologize, and do your absolute utmost to never make those same mistakes again. That's it. But now, speaking of times of crisis, times of war, and protecting yourself from rogue governments, rogue corporate actors, DEI, malicious partisan actors, we are live across all platforms on Sunday night, but I am live daily on Rumble. And why? Because Rumble is the platform that you should trust, have faith in, the free speech platform. And now they are also allowing you to invest in crypto with their wallet, which everyone should download. Why? You've seen what's happening on the internet. Censorship is back. If you have any doubts, go to YouTube. Go to YouTube and make a video on certain subjects and watch it get algorithmically suppressed into irrelevance. Platforms are controlling narratives and pushing the stuff they want us to see. We need to fight back, and Rumble is the only company that has stood the test of time and deserves our support. On one side, Rumble is challenging the big tech censorship, but now on the other side, they've introduced something that will give us protection from big banks shutting us off, protection from companies willy-nilly saying, we don't like your politics, so we're eating you. Banks can cancel our accounts at any time, freeze our cards at any time, and everybody in Canada knows this. That's why Rumble launched the Rumble Wallet, a wallet nobody can cancel, and a wallet that supporters can use to instantly tip creators like myself or others if you so choose, without any middlemen taking the cuts, and without any risk that the platform shuts you down. The wallet is non-custodial. Not even Rumble can control it. You control your money, not a bank, not the government. It's yours. You can protect yourself. You can cover your assets, pun intended. You can tip creators, or you can just invest in Bitcoin or XAUT at your own risks and peril, people. You can invest in USAT, which is a US dollar tethered cryptocurrency. You can invest in XAUT, which is a gold tethered cryptocurrency, thanks to the partnership between Tether and Rumble. It's not only a wallet to help you buy and save, but it also allows you to support your favorite creators, tipping them with the click of a button. And I'll show you how to do it, actually, while we're doing this right now. And until Biggity Barnes gets in. See what you do, you see? You go to Rumble. And if you're watching on the landing page, everybody, click on the show itself. Is this us right now? Barnes gets in. That's me. And you go down here. You see this little tip button. Once you've downloaded the Rumble wallet, you can get it at wallet.rumble.com. You click on the tip. You see that let's go. Go with Bitcoin if you're going to tip. And you click and you scan that QR code, and you can tip me or any other creator with crypto. I think right now you should probably be tipping or investing in gold. Not investment advice. Invest at your own risks and perils. Scan that QR code, and you can tip us with gold, with whatever. Now, we are live across on the Sunday show. CommieTube. Let me see what's going on here. We got a tip question. Can you two touch on the Afro Man rap he dropped on Twitter prior to his civil lawsuit coming out? Dirty cops suing him over using the surveillance. Haven't heard about that. We are live on vivabarneslaw.locals.com. We get to all the tip questions. We have our after show party. We are live on Rumble as well. And until Barnes gets here, let's just touch on a super chat here. Was Candace sued by Macron's wife? Yes, she was. She was sued for defamation a number of other charges. I have to check where that suit is. Barnes and I disagree on the outcome of that suit. I said I don't think Candace is going to get destroyed over that lawsuit. Barnes was more cynical. That being said, the TikTok, what's her name? The TikTok psychic who was just ordered to pay $10 million to the Moscow, Idaho professor over the killings of Kohlberg, where this TikTok psychic said that she saw it in her tarot cards that this professor ordered the killing because she was having an affair with one of the students, ordered to pay $10 million for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress. I think that is an outcome that Candace Owens might want to pay attention to. Now, because here we go. Over on vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Chris Kraft, thank you very much for all this support. For the Manny was right again jar. Manny is coming along beautifully. I love that dog. I love Winston too, but I love the mushy face of a French bulldog. Tithe to the Robert Barnes was right again jar. We're going to get there. No, see, well, first of all, the joke is funny. This is a meme that says we did that in the price of gas. What is it now? I had it on the backdrop. I think nobody's sharing the graph of crude oil prices. What was that? $97? Oil prices today, $98. Nobody's sharing that meme anymore. You know, when it dropped 10% in one day, like, I'm so tired of winning. Yeah, well, that's because you looked at it on a fraction of a day. I think if you're going to go with a joke about this, and I'm repeating this joke with neither approval nor condemnation because it's humor, Operation APAC Fury is kind of better than Operation Epstein Fury because it sounds like Epic Fury. APAC sort of sounds, but Epstein Fury is a funny meme. Everybody can understand what you're saying. Remaining 20 points each. So Mr. Barnes addresses my previous two questions. Gray 101 says, now that Trump's CIA is investigating Tucker Carlson as working for Iran, will the Trump DOJ bring Tucker to justice? Disloyalty to Israel is disloyalty to America. And Gray 101 says, Trump said the U.S. strikes had, quote, totally demolished most of Carg Island and warned that more could follow, telling NBC News, quote, we may hit a few more times just for fun. All right, well, we'll see when we're going to get to all of that when Robert gets here. Robert, come on in as soon or as not soon as you are ready. And see what's going on here. Everybody, if I may ask all of you, like, share, subscribe. Barnes is coming in dark today. There he is. Woo, yeah, looking dapper, sir.
Indeed, I had a hush-hush up on the Rothschilds, the eyes wide open at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. So if you want to take a look at that, it's pinned to the board. And we have a big special fundraiser at for 1776 Law Center to support the legal defense of Amish farmer Amos Miller. That is also pinned up at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. It's an Amish outing at his farm that's going to have a picnic with his food, his family cooking the food. There's buggy rides. There's going to be tours of the farm. Meet the family, meet the animals, hang out. Real special occasion to help raise funds as they are seeking invasive discovery. They are demanding that Amos Miller provide information about all of his customers, all of his vendors, all of his employees, anybody that's ever worked with him, for him, connected to him, as a fishing expedition to something that's not even material or relevant to the case. Going to have to argue that, in fact, at the end of this week up in Lancaster County. So, but it's been an eventful week.
Robert, do you know what satisfies my OCD more than anything? I think I can see the top of your computer, and it's perfectly aligned with the line under my Viva Fry shirt. Robert, so we got a lot of stuff on the menu tonight. Very quickly, what are we covering? We're going to talk about Tyler Robinson's update in his trial. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff involving Israel, so it's going to piss some people off and make other people happy. What else do we have on the menu?
We've got the Facebook trial that is going to the jury. Closing arguments finished this week. A big murder trial out in Utah is going to jury. Closing arguments. I believe tomorrow. Nick Rekieta is covering it. A range of other people are covering it. The Richens trial. We've got Israel before the International Court of Justice. A bunch of nations are joining that, as Israel allows people that were doing what appears to me to be systemic assault, but clearly in one egregious assault case, involved rape and abuse of a Palestinian detainee. They're all allowed to walk. And in fact, it's a blood libel for you to even talk about it. We've got, I think you already partially covered it. Is Bibi alive or dead? We've got the Pete Hegseth bragging about war crimes in different ways, in different respects, at different times, while they engage in a censorship campaign that includes apparently illicit CIA spying on behalf of Laura Luhu against Tucker Carlson. We've got Live Nation, all the things I talked about in the antitrust corruption.
Robert, like it's amazing when I started reading that. I'm like, I didn't even get to the punchline before I started reading it. This is where there's an intervener who's objecting to the settlement of the antitrust suit. I'm like, oh, this is going to involve Mike Davis, isn't it? Holy shit, people. Get your tithes ready for the Robert Barnes was right, because I got those allegations lined up. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Yes, a very cool antitrust settlement objection.
We've got a DEI grant that was invalidated by the Trump administration, but overturned by a federal court. But it might have a surprise aspect to it. As it turns out, the sloppiness of our cabinet continues unabated. We've got the online laws regulating kids in California that went before the Ninth Circuit. What got enjoined? What got reinstated? We've got an Italian court affirming the right of the Italian government to limit its citizenship rights in ways that it had not done before. We've got a big key tam win against Big Pharma that might proffer promise for some other key tam cases that are pending out there. We've got a big verdict or a judicial verdict in a torture case that goes all the way back to Abu Ghraib, however you pronounce it. In one of the cases we covered way back, a First Amendment speech case, got wonderfully overturned by the Ninth Circuit after a lower federal district court tried to allow censorship of a student's opinions related to BLM. And last but not least, what happened to the claim of Medicaid entitling you to trans procedures? That went before the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. We'll be covering that as well.
Well, let's cover the stuff that's guaranteed to piss off, I don't know, say half the audience. So you heard the same rumors. I'm still a little bit flabbergasted by, I don't know if you saw the intro, Robert, but the pocket movement was a little weird, and I'm going to have to go back and look at this. Rumors that Ben Netanyahu had been killed in a strike. There were these, I will refer to them as garbage. The word is slop when it comes to this type of AI rubbish. Images allegedly of Netanyahu being pulled from the rubble. I never bought into any of it. But there might be good, if it actually turns out that some of these videos are AI or enhanced or whatever, it might be, as we were talking about before the show, that Benjamin Netanyahu might not be safe in Israel and might be abroad. What's your take on where it's at?
So initially, there are people that track planes. That's all they do. Years ago, our own CIA rendition got outed by obsessive plane watchers. That's all they do is watch plane. They track all the planes. Oh, they're going here, they're going there. I mean, these days, a military operation is going to happen because they're tracking where those planes are going. The ability to keep a lid on that kind of thing is not so easy anymore. And they had Bibi Netanyahu's plane leaving at the beginning of the conflict and heading to Berlin. So the rumor was that he was out of Israel and was now in Berlin. Since then a couple of days ago, there was talk that Ben-Gvir's house was hit, that Bibi Netanyahu's house was hit by Iranian missiles. People can follow, I think it's Professor Ted Postal, that is at MIT. He's been talking about the great exaggeration about the ability of us to intercept ballistic missiles. He's advised the Defense Department. He's reviewed this for 30 plus years. So I recommend you. He's been on with Glenn Deason. He's been on with Sanchez, the Sanchez report, a range of others. And he has detailed and demonstrated some issues with that may be reflective there. But so in aggregate, what really started precipitating this was Bibi Netanyahu not being seen in public for days. So after this report is that his house was hit, the talk was that his brother got killed. Another one was his brother was wounded. Another one was that he himself got taken out. Another one was that Ben-Gvir got taken out. And then those rumors went up with his son, apparently social media footprint, kind of disappearing about 6 days ago, who usually resides in Miami and is usually talking a lot. So there's two possibilities. One is that for security precaution purposes, they are limiting their public exposure. Trump is talking about whether the newly appointed Ayatollah is necessarily alive. But I thought when he was talking about it, I was like, you could pretty much say the same things about Bibi Netanyahu that he's talking about the new Ayatollah. Lack of us being seen physically and in terms of in person by anybody.
Actually, now that you mention it, that is a confession through projection, which is what they're saying. Like we haven't heard from or seen, although now they've seen video, so that might put an end to it.
But the videos look kind of weird. Both of them did. And so there was talk that maybe the AI did it. Then there was talk that debunked that by saying, no, it's just an optical illusion. It's not AI, that you're seeing 6 fingers on Bibi's hand. But then even the new one that he released that was put out on his X feed this morning, there were even false posts that people thought was real from the prime minister's account that was actually not from his account. He did post, or what was posted to his account about, we'll get to later, that it's a blood libel to document and just talk about the rape and assault of a Palestinian detainee by Israeli soldiers. That case was just dismissed this week. But essentially, like, by contrast, look at what's happening in Iran. We put out apparently huge $10 million bounties on a bunch of Iranian officials. And I was wondering, they're like, if you can give us information about their whereabouts. Well, I was like, hold on a second. I think I see them on TV right now. They're walking through the streets arm in arm with a bunch of Iranian protesters, which tells you, by the way, how little concern they have for a insurrection or rebellion or regime change of mass protest in Iran, that these high-ranking officials are out walking along the streets with the protesters. So where's Bibi? I mean, that's basically the question. Where's Bibi? Because Bibi has not been seen in public outside of these very weird-looking videos. I mean, the videos just don't look like something feels off. Like even that new one with the cafe, they ran it through AI spot. Tell me the probability this is an AI. 78% chance they came back that video there is AI.
I got to tell you,
the programs that are designed, it just looks, and there was talk that maybe this cafe was closed during the attacks.
Robert,
so it just feels off and weird.
Look at the pocket right there. I mean, I think it's just springing back into shape. But Robert, the problem is this with these types of
that looks really AI-ish.
It looks like they're using a depth of field lens to make it, give a nice bokeh blurred background.
Yeah, you would know more about the cameras.
Yeah,
I don't know anything about cameras.
That's not that is either that. Oh, you know what that might be? Hold on, they might be using portrait mode or cinematic on an iPhone, which always messes up the edges. Yeah, that seems more like what they're probably doing, which might explain this. Well, I don't think he's dead, but the flip side is, when Zelensky was out showing that he was out and about and in Ukraine, people were suggesting he was in front of a blue screen. So no matter what happens, no matter what anybody does, people are going to float conspiracy theories.
Well, I mean, if he wanted to just be out with the public or do a live interview like the Iranian officials are doing. And the question is, why isn't he doing that? Now, maybe it's because he's in Berlin and doesn't want anybody to know he's in Berlin. Maybe because he's somewhere in hiding in Israel and doesn't want to come out. It just seems the contrast between how he is handling things and how the Iranian officials are handling things is quite striking.
It'll be a decent segue. At least it's on topic. The breaking news of the day is Tucker Carlson putting out a 5-minute video, give or take, suggesting that the CIA had been spying on him and his text messages, and that they might be preparing a criminal referral for the DOJ. We'll see if the first deep state arrest that comes out of the DOJ is Tucker Carlson. I should have said deep state is going to be Tucker Carlson. Let's see if it would just be the funniest thing on earth in a cynical way if they actually do something with Tucker, but not with anybody else within the deep state, Russiagate, January 6th, whatever. He put out a video saying, I don't know how I forget now how he discovered that they allegedly did it, and that they might be referring a criminal complaint to the DOJ on the basis of FARA violations. You get the Laura Loomers of the world, and I'm a little surprised that some other agencies, other journalists and journalistic entities jumping on board with this. You just say he's guilty. He has to be guilty of something if he's texting Iranian officials trying to get an interview. Exactly like they said, the left, Democrats, fake news when Tucker was trying to arrange for an interview with Putin. And because the conservatives sort of had more against that war, they were sort of more inclined to say it's outrageous to try to go after Tucker for trying to schedule an interview with Putin. And that when Putin gave him that gift, that was like somehow espionage if he's bringing it back to America. People were sort of outraged a little bit then, at least on the right. Now they're jumping on the bandwagon saying he has to be guilty of something. He has no FARA violations. If you're Laura Loomer, you're suggesting Logan Act violations, as if he's representing the United States of America to Iran. And you'll tell me what you think. I thought that maybe there's a legitimate possibility for why the CIA or some intelligence, Secret Service, would be spying on Tucker. They know that he might be trying to schedule an interview with some Iranian officials. He's meeting with the president, and they want to make sure that he's not a national security threat to President Trump, or, inadvertently even transmitting information or allowing for the spying on Trump. Maybe they hack his phone, maybe they put whatever. So maybe there's some legitimate reason for which they might be spying on him or trying to get his text messages. You say no, that there would never be any. Well, you'll answer the question. Is there any potential legitimate reason for which they would, in fact, need to spy on Tucker, given his proximity to and connections and access to the president?
The CIA has no legal authority to spy on anybody in the U.S., least of all U.S. citizens in the U.S. You often see that referenced in films and movies, but that is part of the CIA charter. So the CIA has no authority whatsoever to be reading his text, reading his emails, doing anything, period. Doesn't matter if they suspect criminal activity. They have no business doing it. They have no legal authority to do that. The FBI could, but if the FBI met the legal standards for doing so, which depends on what it is that they're looking at as to whether it's reasonable suspicion or probable cause. But the CIA has no domestic authority whatsoever inside the United States to spy on U.S. citizens ever.
Well, if we've learned one thing from the Russiagate hoax, is that if they're targeting an international asset and then they tangentially get Tucker Carlson in that. So let's just say that the
NSA, that's the National Security Agency, which can basically they intercept communications to foreign people under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which still requires FISA warrants to target any individual. And if it's a U.S. individual, it has to meet certain standards. Again, that wouldn't be the CIA. Well, so what he is saying is the CIA is acting lawlessly in violation of their own charter and rights, as well as their own authority. Outside of that authority, and we'll get to. Ratcliffe. One of the people implicated in the antitrust scandal is Ratcliffe. Is deputy counsel who we know, Michael Ellis, who used to be counsel at Rumble. He keeps getting implicated in these scandals. He was implicated in trying to cover up the Russiagate scandal by doctoring documents to give to Tulsi Gabbard, according to public reports. And now he shows up connected to the antitrust corruption that's taking place at scale. And now there's an implicit allegation by Tucker Carlson, because Ellis would be the one directly involved in legally trying to authorize. He can't. It would be him involved in illegal spying on U.S. citizens and U.S. journalists, which they have no business doing. So what he's disclosing is patently illegal, period. End of story.
Well, our above average community at Local says they're using Tucker to spy on Iranian agents, Iranian officials. Is that a possibility?
They still can't go through U.S. They can't be active inside the domestic United States to spy anywhere in the U.S., period. That's a territorial limitation. And then they have an additional limitation if it's a U.S. citizen. You combine it, the CIA couldn't do that. The NSA could be gathering intelligence and information of contact communication to a foreign source, assuming that it was targeting the foreign source, not Tucker, and assuming that they met certain FISA obligations and limitations. And so what's Trump busy doing? He's trying to reauthorize the Patriot Act, by the way, and all of the illicit surveillance. It's one of his many promises he's walked back on of late. So to me, there's no legitimate legal purpose that the CIA can be spying on an American journalist engaging in American journalism from U.S. shores. There isn't. The NSA could be intercepting Iranian communications, but it has to be incidental, not intentional, as to Tucker Carlson. And that's still the NSA, not the CIA. And there's still certain FISA obligations they have to admit, because all of this is always subject to the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. So the Fourth Amendment still applies. People tend to forget that there's somehow you could statutorily exempt the Fourth Amendment. There isn't. Not only that, there couldn't be anything they're concerned about with Trump saying, because that's up to Trump. Tucker's not a government employee. He's not subject to confidentiality rules or classification rules. So anything Trump said beyond Trump, there's nothing that Tucker could tell anybody he wanted, whether it was conversation with was Trump. There's nothing about that would be government secrets, because at the moment Trump shared it with him, it was no longer a government secret because he de facto declassified it. So there's no, now, I mean, we do have concerns about whatever Jared Kushner's doing. Apparently Witkoff was carrying around some Israeli pager or something that they gave him. I was like, what? I mean, that's where the spying is occurring. It's not occurring by Iran. It's not occurring by Tucker Carlson. It's occurring by the government of Israel, implicating high-ranking officials. We now know Witkoff lied about what took place in the negotiations, according to the mediator from Oman, about what communications took place during the negotiations. So they're just compounding scandal after scandal after scandal and trying to harass and intimidate Tucker Carlson, which is what this is just revealing more of their illicit activities. What happens when war happens? Whenever war happens, bad things result. It's very rare that great things result.
I was just looking up some historical examples of CIA spying on gathering data. You have Operation Chaos, MK Ultra, and that was supposed to have been resolved under the Church Committee. But was it in 2022, Senators Ron Wyden and Martin Heinrich revealed via classified documents that the CIA operated a secret bulk collection program, searching data for Americans' information without warrants or full congressional oversight. Backdoor searches of databases often collected overseas, but including U.S. persons' communications. Critics, ACLU, Brennan Center, argue this effectively spies on Americans. So there hasn't been,
but
in recent memory,
not spying domestically. Like even Chaos and MK Ultra and all the rest was not domestic spying. It was mind control operations, things like that. So that's what I said. It would be blatantly illegal. There'd be no legal justification for it whatsoever. And my guess is that they either tipped off the press that tipped off Tucker, or somebody who spotted the illegality and let Tucker know the illegality was occurring. But this is the scandal is not going to incriminate Tucker Carlson. The scandal is going to incriminate the Central Intelligence Agency of Ratcliffe and Counsel Michael Ellis, who better start waking up and paying attention and quit being involved in these corrupt scandals. Because if he thinks he's immune, guess again, Mike.
Well, I mean, it's that if they ever get into power again, they're going to come after everybody. There will be no friends in this administration. But is it possible that Tucker was using words either loosely or improperly, and it was in fact the FBI or Secret Service that was, digging into?
Well, it wouldn't be the Secret Service, because that would be a threat to the president himself. There's no basis for that. So they don't have lawful authority for that sort of thing either. All this would have to go to the FBI. So it would have to be run through the FBI and the Justice Department, not through the CIA. And what Tucker disclosed was that the FBI was not initially part of this at all. So that this was just the CIA acting rogue, spying on U.S. citizens and U.S. journalists. And now we're trying to escalate it to the thing that didn't make sense is I suspect this is Laura Luhuzer, maybe also spreading fake news and information. In other words, you may have the CIA involved, but the CIA, they're going to make a criminal referral? The CIA has no grounds to make. They're going to make a criminal referral that details their illicit spying? There's no basis for that at all.
I did look up
that
CIA.
Part of it didn't make sense to me. So that told me that the source was somebody that was like Laura Luhuzer trying to spread false news. If they're actually stupid enough to put their illegal spying in a referral to the Justice Department, they're even dumber and more corrupt than I thought. So now people said, is there some FARA violation? I love that people say this is Tucker's working for Qatar, connected to Iran. By the way, Qatar is currently getting attacked by Iran. So this idea is like these people can't even put one and one together to equal two. Some of the dumbest human beings on the planet. But if you look at FARA, I have long been a critic of FARA, passed during in the build-up to World War II, 1938, I believe, to target supposed Nazi propagandists in the United States. It was mostly due to the fact there were a lot of Germans in America who weren't gung-ho about us going to war with their homeland, ancestral homeland again. That's what that was really about. But the law was considered so constitutionally dubious that before Mike Flynn, I think there'd been 6 cases in its entire 80-year history, 90-year history. So the FARA law is really to deal with lobbyists, people who are literally acting as an agent of somebody else. If it's their own opinion, it doesn't count. So you have to be an agent of a foreign principal, and then you have to register. It's not illegal to do it. You just have to register. And if you don't register, then you're subject to a 5-year federal felony. The foreign principal needs to be a government, a political party, or someone who is, at a minimum, not a U.S. citizen acting on behalf, for a foreign government, foreign principal. In order for you to be an agent, you have to be under their ordering, direction, or control.
Well,
so, principal. It goes back to old school principal agent law rules. So if you're acting on your own accord, and by the way, there's a specific exemption that states that also you have to not be acting independently. You have to not be simply stating your own views. You have to be acting as the alter ego of the foreign principal. And it has to not be for religious purposes, scholastic purposes, academic purposes, scientific purposes, or news gathering purposes. So FARA has absolutely no application to the Tucker situation at all.
It drives me nuts because I'm not an American attorney. I can read things and I can sort of understand the precedent. And I don't know how many people have been convicted under FARA. The Cuban Five was one of them, where the Cuban Five, also known as the Miami Five, 5 Cuban intelligence officers who were arrested in September '98, later convicted in Miami, conspiracy to commit espionage, yada yada yada. The Cuban government acknowledged that the 5 were intelligence agents in 2001 after denying it for 3 years. It said they were spying on Miami's Cuban exile community, not the U.S. government. So when we're talking, this is the example of FARA violations where they were acting for and on behalf of a foreign government as agents, as covert employees. Tucker Carlson, whether or not he espouses views that, I don't know, even benefit Qatar or benefit Iran because he doesn't support the war, is not an agent. And he's not lobbying the government either. What has to go into lobbying?
Something that's not his own independent opinion. In other words, you have to be. I'm saying this because I'm literally just the alter ego of a foreign government or foreign principal, and that's not what's happening at all. And so and even if it were, it says even if you're acting as an agent of a foreign principal, if the reason you're doing it is religious, scholastic, academic, art, or news gathering. If you're in the news gathering business, then you're exempt from the law, from the registration requirement. So this only applies, it applies potentially to people like Laura Luzer, because she may be getting money from the Israeli government or Israeli citizens in order to propagate Israeli propaganda here in the United States. She's already been identified in 2 scandals in just the last 2 weeks. She's been illicitly lobbying for pardon activity without registering as a lobbyist, without disclosing that she's acting as an agent for these criminal scumbags, that she's tricking the Trump administration into pardoning, working with Arthur Schwartz. And she was identified by Tucker Carlson running a scam for a bogus business that was ripping off old people thinking that they were investing in gold. So she's been involved in 2 criminal scandals, according to published reports and investigative reporting in just the last 2 weeks. And I have no doubt she's taking money in one way, shape, or form from the Israeli government or those that are Israeli citizens who are Israel first people. Her confession through projection filter makes Laura Loomer the foreign agent who should be criminally prosecuted for FARA violations, if anybody should.
It's from the New York Times article. Take it for what it's worth, because I don't trust the New York Times, but we haven't heard boo from Laura on this. Pardon industry offers rich offenders a path to Trump. Here we say Mr. Schwartz has not been shy about sharing the strategy behind his clemency campaign with other inmates. So they knew he had paid multiple people to try to get the job done, according to 2 people familiar with it. Nearly $1 million went to right-wing operatives who claim to have worked with Laura Loomer, a social media provocateur who has the ear of Mr. Trump to advocate for Mr. Schwartz's release. You go down here. Berkman and Wool, who also privately indicated that they enlisted Ms. Loomer to assist with the Schwartz clemency push. I should have said she believes it should be done. In an interview with The Times, Loomer said Berkman and Wool had nothing to do with her decision to champion Mr. Schwartz's cause, and that she was not paid by the lobbyists or Mr. Schwartz. While she acknowledged that she is close to Mr. Wool, Ms. Loomer said Mr. Schwartz's case was brought to her attention by a group of chat related to Jewish causes. All right, whatever we can get. It's out there, and nobody's making it up.
She's responded to Tucker's investigative report about her promoting a gold scam and scheme. And I have no doubt that if a full vetting would show that she should be a FARA agent, probably should be probably should have registered as a lobbyist in a wide range of respects, given that she's communicating directly with members of the Trump administration for interests that she has not disclosed she's registered as a lobbyist for. And I mean, and then remember that we know that a bunch of people are getting paid by the Israeli government, but we don't know who it was. Those all should have been disclosed in the FARA report. And with criminals like this, just do a confession through projection as a filter. And what you will find is what they're accusing others of is what they are guilty of. So I suspect Laura Lehu Zahur is the only criminal in this story.
So far as out, Logan Act is even more patently preposterous.
Oh, it's asinine.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And then there
asinine.
was I got to bring it up because I'm just sort of shocked at who's reposting this stuff. This is from Dave Hale. I know that I've had my issues with Dave Hale. I remember that name and that face. Calls himself America First, provides material support to enemy of America during war. I mean, I'm asking a question I know the answer to. There's zero evidence he provided any support whatsoever, unless that support consists of being, generally speaking, anti this particular war.
Yeah, and this often happens. These fake patriots, these people who are a damnable disgrace to American history. The blood of the founders quite literally runs through my veins. So when I hear these hypocritical frauds who believe worshiping a politician and whoring for war makes them more American than people like me, you're the bastards that probably never should have been led into this country and your ancestors into this country in the first place. You are a disgrace to the founders of this country. We were founded on the principles. Read George Washington's farewell address. Read John Quincy Adams' speech on the 4th of July in the 1820s that said, we do not go abroad searching for monsters to destroy. We should not be aligned with our allies to such a degree we find such impassioned support of, leading us into unjustifiable and inexplicable wars. And these war whores, pretending they're the most American, are the least American and are the traitors to the American cause and the American Constitution, if any exist. Like that scumbag.
Look at this is amazing. This is what it means to have a flipping memory. Look at this. So back in the day, he said literally the most un-American thing you can possibly post. Another, this was recently, relatively anti-Trump post. It's un-American to post a joke. You better go back to China. No comedy allowed here. Where's the other one here? It's the last one I want to see. What was this one about? If this was 2024's Republican ticket, they would win 60% of the popular vote. And I wrote, it would also not be a Republican ticket at that point. Holy crab apples. This guy seems to have always been anti-Trump and now is...
all the neocons that are masquerading as MAGA, that have captured the definition of MAGA, were longstanding Trump haters and are longstanding war whores who are at core anti-American. That's what they really are. And they pretend to go around waving the flag. Reminds me of CCR's song about fortunate ones, waving the flag until it's time for their son to go overseas. What is it? We've got 13 dead Americans already, probably more that they haven't even reported. Hundreds in hospitals in Germany and elsewhere. For what? For Israel. That's why they're there. And being critical of it makes you more of an American, not less of one.
Well, I'll only push back. People are going to say, Barnes, you've gone off the rails with Israel, where you used to be called a Zionist and now you're not called a Zionist. This is for, on the one hand, it's quite clearly for to assist Israel. They've stated as much, but some are just going to argue it's for the military-industrial complex, the forever wars, the Adelson donors.
Too. It's all the same war whores that are letting American blood be spent for their profits. And that's not an American tradition at all. It's foreign to our constitutional history. It's foreign to the American founders. It's foreign to anybody who is a deeply pro-American individual. But they will always masquerade as the uber patriots. That's why you have to sacrifice your boys and your girls, your sons and your daughters, and your wealth and your treasure and your labor and your life and your liberty for them to get fat, for them to get rich. For them to get more power. That's the most anti-American set of beliefs and ideas I can ever see propounded or propagated. And I take Hexus wants to talk about no quarter. Well, I give no quarter to those traitors of the American Constitutional Republic who disguise their betrayal as patriotism.
So that I want to just, let's see what the price of crude oil is right now, Robert. It's at $99.14. Nobody's showing this graph
and
now.
The physical oil is worth $140. So if you're actually trying to get it right now, it's $140 if you're out there in the markets. The trading is around $100 because of how much manipulation they did this week. They spent all kinds of energy and effort to basically to trick the markets into thinking all the problem is solved. And all they're doing is delaying the inevitable, which in terms of the price hikes are going to get worse and then they won't be able to in the future calm the markets because nobody will believe them anymore. Nobody's going to believe Trump anymore. Nobody's going to believe Secretary Wright or Secretary Besson or any of the others. They apparently were trying to short the markets using U.S. taxpayer dollars this past week. So, I mean, this is, it was a huge bungle. And rather than just walk away from the bungle, take the off-ramp that President Putin offered, Trump is doing now what he did during the early stages of COVID, doubling down on stupid. And it's not getting any better. And the sooner he recognizes, hey, it's a mistake, can't win it, time to exit, take a bit of a hit, but don't take the kind of hit you're going to get if you put ground troops on there. Don't take the kind of hit that will happen if the Straits of Hormuz are closed for another 30, 60, 90 days. Don't take the kind of hit if Israel's crazy enough to use nuclear weapons. I mean, Newt Gingrich is out there talking about let's, use a bunch of thermonuclear explosions to create a new alternative strait. I mean, this guy's nuts. This is how loony these people are. They're out of their mind. They're out of their gourd. But we're getting so much propagandized. And for those of us that have studied it, for those of us that have lived through it, we see it for exactly what it is. But the numbers of suckers and saps out there who are just woofing up the Fox News slop and repeating some of the dumbest propaganda on the planet. I mean, you even had the press secretary out there saying the president is going to war with Iran because they would close the Straits of Hormuz, which they only closed the Straits of Hormuz because we went to a war with Iran. I mean, Trump says we have 100% destroyed them, aside for their missiles, their bombs, their drones, their soldiers, their proxies, aside from everything that they have. We've 100% destroyed them. He looks like he's insane. He's going King Lear mad. And they better, and if somebody around the White House doesn't contain him, this will become catastrophic for the MAGA coalition, for the 2024 coalition in the midterms, for 2028. If you don't want Democrats to run the House, the Senate, and the White House, then you want Trump out of this war quicker rather than later.
Let me bring this one up just to address it. I totally get the criticism of Trump administration, but Barris and Barnes seem to get a little too giddy when delivering it, which makes them look sus.
I'm not giddy.
It's so stupid to go after the intentions, which you can't ever definitively identify or prove. No, don't go after intentions. Address the substance. They're right. End it there. You get the criticism. End it there.
Giddy about the idea of Democrats having complete control in 2028, where they may pack the Supreme Court, where they may add D.C. and Puerto Rico as states, where they may give amnesty to 20 million illegals so they can rig every election for the next decade plus? No, that's why I'm screaming about it. That's why I'm warning about it. That's why I'm upset about it. To all the criticism. I mean, I was on with Turning Point, the show affiliated with them, the Charlie Kirk show, for just 30 minutes or so. I think it was 15 minutes of broadcast time. And Mark Levin, a whole bunch of these Laura Loomer types went around trying to get me basically deplatformed and trying to get donors to quit giving money to Turning Point simply because they allowed me on the show. These if you're right, you don't need to censor people. This is what we learned in COVID. This is what we learned from the Democratic lawfare. Why then is the Trump administration in Israel and the Gulf states engaging in mass censorship? Israel is arresting journalists for simply publishing information about the conflict. If things are going so great, if it's so awesome, why is our own U.S. military telling satellite companies they can't publish any satellite photos from things that have already happened? It's not like Iran needs those photos. They get them right from China and Russia. And they even have their own satellites, by the way. This is solely to keep us in the dark. And in the Gulf states, they've arrested hundreds of people for simply publishing any kind of video of what's happening. I mean, so why is that? And now they're going after Tucker Carlson, the top critic from the right of this war and this conflict. It's because they are lying to you. They are engaging in the censorship because they know they are lying to you. They've been lying about I mean, how many accidental the plane fell from the sky stories are people going to believe? How many, it was just friendly fire that all of a sudden 3 F-15s hit the ground. That, now one of the big, the fueling jets, it was taken out by Iranian anti-airfare, what do you call it?
Frag, what is it called? Air frag. It's
Air defense. Well, however it is, that's what happened. And in fact, it's what's happened multiple times. It's why if you look at a map, almost all the attacks that the U.S. has done are all in Western Iran, not Eastern Iran. Why? Because we don't have air dominance. Because Pete Hegg's death is lying to you, and it's not good. Can somebody shut Trump up? He's got to quit saying, oh, it's more fun to do it this way. It's more fun to sink them. It's more fun to do another attack. It's more fun to bomb people. Hey, let's put out another video game showing how war is like a video game, a little kid's video game. This is disgraceful. This is disreputable. And quite frankly, it's evidence of war crime behavior. That's how much they've lost their minds in the White House.
People want to move on to another subject because it's sort of blackpilling and doom-pilling, and it's
well, the next topic they need to start listening. A little bit of mix. It's a red pill of what's happening. It's a black pill of how bad the Justice Department is, and it's a white pill that what we said is being proven true in live time about Mike Davis and the Justice Department.
Well, we're going to get there. Let's, for the time being, go over here and check out all of the Humble rants over on Humble, and then we're going to get to some more on locals. Randy Edwards said, first oil exceeded $100 a barrel under Bush, but fuel prices never approached $2 a gallon, and that was 29 years ago. Also, when did Robert Barnes start working for the Young Turks? Anton's meat is never floppy. It's never dry. Order Anton's meat from King of Biltong. King of Biltong. We're going to get there in a second, but do not sit on Anton's firm and juicy meat. That is gay. Man alive, didn't know Barnes was working for the British per Tom Luongo, LOL. Looks like we got a regular Benedict Bernard Barnes on our hands. Tom is retarded. He said this on a podcast recently. Tom, did I not reach out to him?
Yeah.
Isn't he the one he said, what else did he say that was defamatory that he had to backtrack?
It's all part of super secret 5D chess to take out the city of London. God bless him, but he's gone full QAnon, which is impressive.
Hold on, what did he say about you? I had to correct. I put a video out and then he retracted it.
He did.
Yeah, but what did he say? It's driving me crazy.
I forgot. Tom's a nice guy, smart, creative guy. He's just gone temporarily insane.
He called you a fucking clown, apparently. Oh, yeah, I called him. I forget.
He's enraged.
Oh, he said you were all over the Epstein files.
yeah. That was it. Yes. I mean, he was making up random stuff. Because he's lost. Because these people that can't connect to reality, and that want to live in a sort of if your version of a white pill is living in a delusional world of your own hallucination, let me suggest that's not such a white pill.
Why are we discussing lawful anything at this point? Ms. Bondi, do you have anything to add? I mean, none of your business. Randy Edwards said someone should send Tucker Carlson a never in writing, always in. We don't even know what he said in writing. It's not this. It's like everyone thinks he's guilty already. Do you think Trump is aware of the deep state actions that are making independents like me wonder what the fudge? If so, is it possible that he is going to push back against it when he can, or does he endorse it?
I mean, that's an open question. It's been baffling behavior the last 6 months.
We're going to get to a potential white pill in a second, but it's going to be a black pill because nothing's going to come of it. EDR says, EDR21, my friend lost his job recently. He has a wife and 3 kids. They farm goats on the side and sell homemade goat milk soap. newplymouthfarm.com/shop. He would greatly support. Guys, everybody, I want to bring that up in a second so we can see what that looks like. I have no affiliation with this.
Goat milk soap is really good. I use it. It's good.
I'm going to give everybody the link right here. Not an endorsement. I don't know who this person is. I just saw it right now, but the website exists. So unless they screw you there, no affiliation. Check it out. newplymouthfarm.com/shop. King of Biltong in the house. Premium Biltong from Biltong USA. High protein, keto friendly, no additives. US source beef, authentic South African flavor. Get some now at biltongusa.com. Use code Barnes for 10% off. And I just want to see what the Plymouth all natural goat's milk. Check it out.
Yes, that's what it's supposed to
look. It looks amazing. Looks like it smells delicious. $90.
Yeah, you had that former vet on. That's also a small farmer.
He's a veteran turned small.
Regenerative farming and doing it. It sounded really. That was a cool.
It's
guy.
Amazing. It's amazing. This is amazing stuff. All right, check it out, peeps. Link is there.
Yeah,
Robert,
that's what what's her name is doing a lot now. Near your neck of the woods too.
Yeah, Allison Morrow. We're going to be hanging out. We're going to be hanging out with her next week because it's spring break and we're heading up to that area. And so I'm going to
make sure you text in advance because he's a very well trained sniper. So
we've organized. They've also got Phil the goat, who I I like Phil. It's gonna be beautiful because we've got our dogs, and we're gonna see how Winnie the Blind Westie reacts to Phil the big goat. Robert, okay, so a white pill. Did I not hear somewhere that we were expecting some arrests or some action on deep state arrests coming in the near future? Am I hallucinating? Pam Bondi.
Yeah, somehow those have all been put on hold, it seems. They're just getting slow played and slow walked all over the place. But instead, we're getting continuous, unfettered, unconstricted corruption by felony criminal Arthur Schwartz, felony criminal Mike Davis, which I told people this was coming, and it happened. We have two cases on this. One is Live Nation. Live Nation basically owns a bunch of the venues and tickets and have been screwing over venues, screwing over artists, and screwing over ticket holders. They got caught in Slack chats, speaking of never in writing, bragging about how they were fixing prices and screwing over customers and screwing over artists and screwing over venues. And in the middle of the trial, they said the Justice Department comes out and the trial lawyer team says, Your Honor, there's been a settlement. And the judge is like, what? Why when was this done? Why wasn't I? Because it's in the middle of the jury trial. And the lawyer announces he had no idea the settlement was even happening. The entire trial team working the case for the Justice Department in one of the most egregious antitrust cases that has existed, because this is a repeat violator and bad actor, Live Nation, was not even included in the settlement negotiations. That's how scammy and scuzzy it was. And then, so there's a bunch of state prosecutors are going to try to maintain and sustain the case despite this huge sandbag. And who is Live Nation hired? According to many published reports, Mike Davis. Well, then look at the HPE filing that took place in the Northern District of California under the Tunney Act, which goes into great detail at the scale and scope of corruption and criminality by Mike Davis and Arthur Schwartz, with Stanley Woodward, with Chad Mizell, with pay-for-play Pam Bondi, with Todd Blanche Dubois at the Justice Department. Let me go through what some of it is. It was
hold on, because I want to also to cover your ass, Robert. I know the everyone always says he's threatened action, lawyer up many times, and I know you're using language deliberately.
Justice is coming. Well, justice is coming for him. I'm not going to have to do it because he better make sure he and Arthur Schwartz and all their pals, Don Trump Jr., Eric Trump, who, by the way, are currently profiting from the war, Jared Kushner, who's got apparently billions of dollars of investments from these Gulf states that were in part involved in this conflict over the scale of corruption is just getting outrageous. But this is one of the more egregious examples, is how the antitrust division has been completely gutted because of the open criminality of pay-for-play Pam Bondi, turning the Justice Department into a personal cash register for people like criminal, felon, undisclosed, unregistered lobbyist Mike Davis, his pal Will Chamberlain. Is it any coincidence that he's running cover for their non-prosecutions? Is it any coincidence he's gaslighting and been gaslighting people for a year about deep state prosecutions coming? Is it any coincidence he is running cover for the war operation in Iran and cheerleading it with Will Chamberlain? No, it's because they did a deal with the deep state to get personally fantastically rich at the expense of we, the American people, and especially the people who voted Trump into office.
I'm just going to read it so that, people can understand these are your opinions, but they're also backed in reported fact. Davis is also working with Live Nation, whose shares climbed Thursday after news of Slater's departure, when Slater, the only seemingly responsible person at the antitrust department, was forced out. A representative for the company didn't return a request for comment. So we covered the Live Nation shocking mid-trial settlement, which was very beneficial for Live Nation, and Live Nation is represented by or working with Mike Davis.
And what is it? It's the Israel lobby aligned with a bunch of corrupt corporate whores to completely gut almost all of what MAGA and MAHA are meant to be and mean. And that's why it's not a coincidence Davis goes around bragging about how he's a cuck for Israel. How did he get the opportunity to have personal meetings with the CIA director Ratcliffe as an effort to derail this antitrust prosecution of HPE. How is it he's meeting with these people to begin with? Gives you an idea that this was the secret deal cut between the donor class. You guys go out, run interference, gaslight MAGA, make them think that everything's going great, run cover for us as the corruption scandals build, and we'll make you personally fantastically rich in the process. That there's a connection between what's happening in the Iran war and what's happening in corruption in the Justice Department. What's happening in the Iran war and President Trump telling people, no mass deportations, everybody. Not going to do those at all. All that money for ICE is going to go mostly to waste. The White House signaled that to the members of Congress this week, while they're busy looking at possible plans to institute a draft. A draft. That is how nuts they are. That's how insane they are. As you pointed out, the persuasion, I think it's Cialdini who wrote that great book, persuading you in advance of something, and sort of giving you the idea in your head so you accept it when it comes down the road, that the Bessent's entire reaction after whatever happened in that call, where body language people were like, all of a sudden he goes like from this, so all of a sudden his hands are grabbing his legs and his voice is starting to crack.
And he's talking about I say sacrificing. Let me play it.
He's ready to sacrifice his son for the sake of Israel. By the way, what is Howard Lutnick, Marco Rubio, Soros, Scotty Bessent? What do these guys have in common with Bongino, Kash Patel, and Pay for Play Pam, who've also been big disappointments in the Trump administration? They're all Israel firsters.
Listen to this.
I listened to you on the...
The president wants you. Sorry, the president wants you very well.
Oh, okay.
He's
Okay.
relaxed, laid
No
back.
problem at all.
When he talks, he usually uses a lot of illustrators.
See you shortly, Mr. Secretary.
An hour and a half
Hey,
Mr.
later.
Secretary, I have to
No,
say,
look at that.
it's a
His hands
first, I'm
can't
sure,
get off his legs.
a loss as
They're
well,
like they're frozen to
that an interviewee's been pulled
Look at
away to go to the Situation Room. How's the president? Was he stressed?
No, the president is in great spirits.
President?
The Iranian mission is proceeding well ahead of schedule. And I have to tell you, Wolf, that I have a teenager who's considering military service. And I could give this team my highest compliment, from President Trump to the head of the Joint Chiefs to the Secretary of War. I would say that I would trust my child's life in their hands.
This is what made zero sense to me. Nobody was talking about children. He says the Iranian war is going ahead of schedule. Why the hell would you then have to say about a child joining the military? His kids are in Europe, first of all. I don't know that they're in school in Europe. I doubt that they're coming back to join the Iranian efforts, although in Europe, maybe they might get recruited on the other side in Europe. It was a non sequitur that made zero sense. I can't even understand. I could not, even in my darkest imaginations, think of what they said to Bessent that would cause him to come out and unsolicited offer his child to the military.
Yeah. They were ready to sacrifice him to Baal. The war whores demand a sacrifice. So bring your firstborn forward. Bringing it back to
we saw the Live Nation. We've talked about the corruption with the Live Nation. It's documented, and now you got the Hewlett Packard Juniper merger. I think this had to do with it had to do with some sort of internet, WLAN or whatever. It was, by all accounts, on its face, an anti-competitive merger, where these were two competitors who were striving or driving innovation from one to the other because they were competing with one another, merging. And it would have been an effective monopoly that would have crushed innovation and would have crushed affordability, in as much as there is any resulting from those two respective companies and their products. I want to get the allegations of what went on in terms of striking authorizing this to go through. I mean, maybe you'll want to flesh that out a little bit more, but there were success fees for hiring consultants. Who was hired in this case, Robert?
So of course, Mike Davis. Here's how it's been described in the antitrust legal press. Under Trump 2.0, since Gail Slater has been removed, competition policy has devolved into a pay-to-play scheme, and the real decisions are being made over cocktails in Pam Bondi's office. So this is what's coming, not from me, from the antitrust legal press. So what happened in the 70s, they passed the Tunney Act, named after the Senator Tunney. And it was because Nixon was interfering in the antitrust divisions, the blocking mergers that would become anti-competitive in the case of, I think it was ITT, I believe it was. And it was such a scandal that they passed a law prohibiting that from happening in the future, so that you had to disclose all kinds of information if there was a settlement or consent decree reached in such a case, or merger approval. And it was an opportunity for third parties to intervene and to make comments about it. And the judge has a right to set aside the consent decree or merger if it is found not to be in the public interest. So what was happening is, since all along, Mike Davis, I think, had this scheme and plan all along. Was to use MAGA, grift off of MAGA, fool and trick MAGA that he was a big antitrust advocate, planning on lining his pockets and getting fabulously rich, selling out the MAGA antitrust agenda by being a secret, undisclosed lobbyist for big corporations. Here's what the summation of they did depositions, they did discovery. It appears HP failed to disclose material information, which means they committed criminal violations under the law. And who are they trying to hide? Arthur Schwartz. Arthur Schwartz was, in fact, working as an unregistered, undisclosed lobbyist on their behalf. That means Arthur Schwartz is involved in a criminal conspiracy to violate both the Tunney Act and to violate lobbyist disclosure laws, just like Mike Davis has been. Here's how they sum it up. The HPE engaged a group of well-connected lobbyists to go over the head of Gail Slater and the entire antitrust division and strike a sweetheart deal with Bondi, Stanley Woodward, and others on terms that the antitrust division would never approve. The series of events that led to the settlement are unprecedented and should shock the conscience. This is being submitted by a bunch of state attorney generals, by the way. Well, this is exactly the kind of case. Go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. I was going to play a little devil's advocate or push back a little bit. The 13 state attorney generals who are the interveners to object to this merger, they're all blue states. I mean,
yes, they are. Now, the Texas may stay in on the Live Nation one. Paxton was considering not agreeing to what the Justice Department did. This is exactly the kind of case the Tunney Act was meant to prevent. And it's why Congress empowered the court to reject the settlement as against public interest. Threats, listen to this, threats were made against Gail Slater and her top deputies by Arthur Schwartz and Mike Davis. The antitrust division was entirely sidelined for the entire settlement process. HPE, despite the fact that this is the responsibility of the DOJ, failed to disclose a range of information, including DOJ tried to hide and lie about the case and asserted improperly privileged logs on things that weren't privileged, failed to disclose meetings that occurred. This is ongoing criminal behavior by the leaders of the Justice Department of the Trump administration. The HPE and the DOJ considered sabotaging and subverting the Tunney Act entirely in favor of these corrupt lobbyists. They withheld information that were statutorily required to disclose to other parties and to the court and to the public. They also failed to disclose all the alternatives that were available other than trial. So they lied to the court about that. The way the settlement was reached and the U.S. complete failure to comply with its statutory disclosure requirements under the Tunney Act not only warrants rejection of the settlement, but it requires the court afford no deference to the U.S. You know what else it does? It is the basis of criminal prosecutions against everybody in the Justice Department, Chad Mizell, Pam Bondi, Stanley Woodward, who are implicated and incriminated here. It also incriminates HPE. It also incriminates Mike Davis. It also incriminates Arthur Schwartz.
Let me tell you that one. So allegedly, HPE, Juniper, paid Davis Schwartz lawyer William Levy $1 million total success fee, contingent on securing settlement approval of the merger, despite the antitrust division opposition and expert view that it harmed competition in
Remember
wireless networking.
$1 million a pop, now publicly disclosed and detailed.
Now,
this is why he went nuts. This is why he tried to dox me. This is why he tried to make false claims and try to get the IRS to investigate me. This is why he went to all those lengths, because he is engaged in ongoing criminal conspiracies betraying and corrupting not only the Trump voters, but the entire Justice
Now,
Department.
the problem, partisan politics being what it is, the states were Colorado, New York. Let me see what the other ones are. They're all Colorado, Connecticut, D.C., Hawaii, Illinois, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New York, North Carolina, Oregon, Washington, Wisconsin. They're going to say this is an anti-Trump.
It doesn't matter. It's all listed from his own deposition testimony, from their own text, from their own written submissions. There's no disputing this at this point.
And the allegations are that they leveraged personal relationships. They bypassed the normal DOJ channels, which I think is
There's no dispute about this. All of this will be confirmed. By the way, this all started because DOJ antitrust lawyers appointed by President Trump blew the whistle on it, Roger Olson and others, back in the summer. And they just keep doing it and doubling down. I have no doubts what happened in the Live Nation case. I have no doubt it's happened in multiple other cases. I have no doubt it happened in criminal prosecutions that magically went away. It is systemic corruption on a scale the antitrust division has never witnessed. That's what is happening under the Trump Justice Department, because he's let pay-for-play Pam turn it into a personal cash register because the donor class is dictating and driving the current Epstein administration.
Now, people are going to get pissed off about that, but get pissed off all you want. I'm going to ask you for the white pill, Robert. You can't. The DOJ is not going to investigate this, at least not Pam Bondi's DOJ. What concretely can Trump do? I'm asking the chat, snip and clip and post these segments to social media. What can Trump do? He's got to get rid of Pam Bondi, and he's got to do an internal investigation of his own DOJ?
If Trump was smart, what he does is recognize what he ultimately recognized in COVID. Because early on, we took a bunch of heat saying that there was a disastrous policy that Trump was engaged in on COVID, and that it would sabotage and potentially kill him in 2020 politically, and it was just bad policy. It took him, unfortunately, like 4 months to get it right. But I'm a born-again Baptist, so I believe in deathbed conversions. So there's, no better opportunity than right now to get out of Dodge on both cases. President Putin, according to published reports, has offered an off-ramp on Iran. Iran stores its nuclear-enriched material in Russia. The conflict ends. We recede from our influence in the Mideast bases that are a waste of time, space, and money anyway, as the Gulf states just figured out, and the whole world got to see on full display, just subjects our soldiers to unnecessary risk, not to meaningful security. We provide some sort of monetary relief for the new Iranian regime in terms of release of sanctions and the rest. We put Bibi back in his box where he belongs. And out of his greater Israel project, there's a current Lebanon peace proposal being put forward by France that is currently under consideration, and do what his national security statement said he was going to do, which is to get out of the Middle East. Cuba's about to fall or collapse, probably can get a deal done with Cuba to have some meaningful democracy there without any military intervention. Focus on things like that, not another Mideastern war, not trying to take on the Persian tiger, which was about as wise as trying to take on the Russian bear. Almost everybody that's ever invaded Persia ends up being converted by Persia at the end. That's a powerful, prideful culture. And killing 150 plus little girls ain't going to convert them to our side anytime soon. That's just reality. And then on this side, take elevate Homan over at ICE and start doing mass deportations. 10 million plus people flooded across our border illegally. That cannot be rewarded. That must be penalized. And quit talking about amnesty plans that they're whispering about in the House and the Senate. Instead, start doing mass deportations. And then purge all the bad actors from the Justice Department. Fire pay-for-play Pam. Fire Todd Blanche Dubois. Fire Stanley Woodward, who's criminally implicated in this disclosure. Cut bait, limit your losses, and put real people in the Justice Department who will actually finally prosecute the deep state related to COVID, related to January 6th, related to election fornication, related to censorship operations, related to Russiagate and Spygate. Do all the things he was elected to do. Return to your voter wife and get away from your donor affair. And that is the way he can restore confidence and faith in the American public, mitigate the losses in the midterms, give Vance a highway, a roadmap to winning in 2028. And you have all the 1776 law center agendas that are widely popular with give people the right to buy food directly from the farmer. Don't allow Big Pharma to be immune when its vaccines cause injury. In fact, unleash the antitrust division. You want to silence all of these critics on antitrust corruption? Really unleash it to take on big tech, to take on big pharma, to take on big ag. This would be celebrated throughout the country, and it would be the best way to neuter and mute the criticism that's coming with the scandals and corruption that has already happened. Tell your boys, quit investing in the military-industrial complex, for the love of God. And while you're doing it, refocus on America. America first meant American people, American workers, and American lives first. And let's not have any more body bags coming back home of our American boys and girls fought in an unnecessary war that does not make us more safe or secure.
What is the next step in this? So the interveners filed that motion to intervene in opposition of the authorization of the merger.
Watch, the judge may have a full hearing, and what happens if the judge makes a bunch of findings? What happens if the judge recommends a referral for prosecution? What if the judge overturns and invalidates the merger? And again, this is small compared to the Live Nation scandal that just happened, and neither one compare to the scandal that is coming. I've been telling people, I suspect that they're violating the Tunney Act. I suspect they're violating the lobbyist disclosure laws and rules. Remember, again, they're running around accusing Tucker of this when Tucker's clearly innocent of it. Remember when they accused Trump of all those insane things in the past, they were confessing the Biden family's criminal history and their entire pedigree and their resume. That there was a son that was on the family payroll that was busy corrupting everything around the world, but that at least at the time, was Hunter Biden, not Donald Trump Jr. or Eric Trump. They're doing the same thing. And so this is what happens when they put it together, and the Justice Department takes a wink and a nod at the merger of Paramount Plus, buying Warner Brothers, owning CNN, owning HBO, owning all these big media and film and television enterprises. And it turns out they also obtained this through illicit, unlawful influence on the antitrust division in the Justice Department. Is it any surprise that the Live Nation deal and this deal with Paramount only happened after everybody, literally everybody, Trump originally appointed to the antitrust division, either resigned in protest or was fired because they objected to this corruption? These are Trump appointees, folks. These aren't career bureaucrats. These are Trump appointees who were canned and fired and run out of Dodge by these corrupt corporate whores. The issue is going to be if they put together that Paramount, maybe through Oracle, funded these people, and when the Tunney Act disclosures come, do they make the same mistake HP made and leave Arthur Schwartz's name off? Do they leave Mike Davis's name off and commit other violations? Not to mention, neither one, to my knowledge, has registered as a lobbyist for Paramount Plus to push through this deal. And imagine Democrats, they're just whetting their appetites, imagining they get to take out the Ellisons and the Trumps and the Republicans all at once. That's what they're gambling on by letting these incompetent crooks run the Justice Department.
It's disappointing. And what is amazing, but because I don't think people understand, like when you say that, and you said it before in other contexts, if the Democrats come back into power, there will be one impeachment after another. And at one point you said
indictment after another.
And then you
what
said
if
at one
they
point,
go crazy and really try to stack the courts? What if they go crazy and try to stack the Senate, stack the House with new states? What if they try to stack all the voters with a bunch of illegals by granting a mass amnesty? That's what people don't understand. It's like, okay, you may love the war in Iran. Are you willing to give Democrats that degree of power in 2028 just for a small chance that you get regime change in Iran? Is it worth it? Even Matt Walsh made this point until somebody at Daily Wire shut him up and silenced him. He was banging the anti-war drum, and then for 4 days straight, Matty boys back to playing ball. And they got that leash on him. The little Benji Shapiro, grab that leash.
Hold on. Now that you mentioned it, I did not notice that he had gone silent on
the war.
Iran. I'm going to double check that. He was taking a lot of heat last week, and I think he was making some damn good points about everything. It wasn't even skepticism.
And a lot of people wuss out. I mean, well, you've lived through it. I've lived through it I've been protesting war since I was 16 years old, and I've been listening to this crap for forever. It's like listening to people that, the Straits of Hormuz are just about to be open, and everything's going to be fine, and the U.S. is winning big, and it's anti-patriotic to point out anything that's problematic with this conflict. It's like listening to the people saying, oh, well, one more surge, Barnes, in Iraq in 2008, one more surge, and then peace and freedom and democracy will flow to the streets of Baghdad. So I've been listening and being accused of being anti-patriotic when the most patriotic thing you can do is express your First Amendment freedoms against foolish overseas wars that are directly contrary to the very founding of this country, especially being lectured by people who have no ancestral ties to our founders, but they have you can be completely foreign, but at least take the time to study the farewell address of President George Washington. At least take the time to study the 1776 address by John Quincy Adams, who happens to be a family cousin. Talking about we do not go abroad searching for monsters to destroy. And people say, but Barnes, there's a monster over there. Did you not hear the speech? Did you not read the learn? These people are illiterate in our founding history. And I find it disgraceful and distasteful beyond all remedy and repair. But let us hope the president, whose great virtue and vice is that he can turn on a dime, does turn on a dime, rescues his own presidency, redeems his own legacy, and restores faith and confidence in our constitutional republic by returning to its principles and precepts.
I'm just looking through Matt Walsh's feed. At least on March 10th, he reposted this.
To our allies, step up, get our air bases out of Spain. They're not move all.
That was what last Tuesday or when, and then he goes silent after that. He stops complaining about Iran.
It is interesting.
But little Benji's got him on a leash over there. Yeah, get over here. Get over here, Matty boy. Get over here, you little boy. Get over here.
Robert, he might be on spring break, but he was.
No, because he's still tweeting. He's just not tweeting about Iran.
He might be on Iran spring break. Okay, let's. He did tweet about something else. It wasn't on the menu, but we're going to add it to the menu right now. You heard that audio that was posted yesterday. Where was it? It was up. It was one of the more recent ones. This right here. You saw this. I put out a video on it yesterday about this.
That fake. The Queen Candace cultists who now have a new wave of credibility because of Trump's insanity in the Iran war. So now all of a sudden people think Nick Fuentes is Nostradamus. Which is, to me, as regrettable as anything else with all this. You had to make Nick Fuentes sound credible. You had to make Queen of the Kooks, Candace Owens, sound like she's predictive. Unbelievable. But this is the most ridiculous, latest libel and lie. And first people out there saying, turning points turned on the anti-war agenda, that they don't. I mean, Candace lies about Andrew and other people on a daily basis. But Robert, just I want to put this on the outset before we get transition. Why did they platform me and keep me on and back me up and support me on Megyn Kelly if they're in the pockets of the war whores and the war lobby? In fact, they're putting students on saying that this war is deeply unpopular. They're putting the editor of the Federalist on saying the war is unpopular. They are putting on anti-war voices almost every day. They say, look, we support the president, so we'll have the people on that support the war. But they're compare it to Fox News. So the Charlie Kirk show is honoring his legacy by having a balanced presentation of different competing, conflicting viewpoints. So all the lies and libels about Turning Point, and all the lies and libels about the Charlie Kirk show, and Andrew and others should be put to bed and put to rest by the fact they kept me on when the entire world was screaming, we're going to cut off our donations if you put Barnes on.
I'm almost hesitant. I don't want to. I don't want to bring it up, and I don't know if I feel bad for this guy because he puts out this tweet, and I put out a vlog on it yesterday.
And he figured out later he was as dumb as a doorknob, and he tried to walk back his obvious libel by pretending it was just a personal opinion. By the way, you cannot hide behind a personal opinion and lie about people. Just say,
Robert, there was nothing of a personal opinion in here. This was quite the opposite. I have been sent a bombshell audio. I have verified its authenticity. This is not a rumor. This is not a theory. This is a recorded phone call from the DOJ, hidden in sight. Yada yada yada. The audio caption
still hasn't taken that post down.
Well, this is my he posted a clarification. Here, listen to this. The audio captures a young girl, clearly a DOJ informant, on the phone with Erika Kirk. This voice is undeniably Erika Kirk's. There's no mistaking it.
It's undeniably not Erika Kirk's voice. Aside from the fact that she was too young, aside from the fact she was living in Scottsdale, they'd already identified the voice if he'd actually done his research.
Well, she wasn't too young, incidentally, because the other girl was 16 or 17 at the time, but she was living in Florida at least. Erika was in Scottsdale. But so he puts that tweet out. It goes viral. Ian Carroll does himself again no favors by that. Sure sounds like Erika Kirk. I never said it was her, but it sounds like her. To her credit, unfortunately, Candace Owens never jumped on this landmine. This guy, so it goes viral. Then he has to issue a correction, and then he retweets that, but leaves it up there so that people are still only going to see that and never the retweet. You delete it, right? Like that, legally speaking, the prudent thing would be to delete that tweet so that nobody retweets it.
Of course. I got Elon Omar to delete tweets over, when she liable the Covington kids case. I think it's the only tweet she ever deleted. So, yes, the very first thing you do if you discover you've made a false representation of fact concerning somebody is you don't double and triple down like Wolves in Finance, who sees he's writing the Candace coattails. I don't think he talks about finance anymore at all. All he talks about is a new conspiracy theory on that train.
Where was oh, yeah, this was the funny one here. It says, talking about double down, triple down. Call to action. Please downvote this attempt to community note my post. This one's still up. The Zionists are trying to discredit me. Oh, this is like, I don't know how anybody goes back to ever being expected to, he never, I don't know who the person is, but it's
and
over
isn't that
the
part
top.
of the point? I would have long suggested about aspects of Fuente's overt anti-Semitism and Candace going crazy is it discredits their legitimate criticism of Israel's policies. That what it does is it helps affiliate and associate legitimate criticism of Israel with, oh, you must be kooky like Candace. You must be nutty like Nick Fuentes. You must want to run around with other boys dressed in little furry outfits like Fuentes fans. So that I've often thought this was deliberate disinformation given to that camp so that this isn't one of the oldest COINTELPRO. You can go back and track it, the whole history of how COINTELPRO operated, their modus operandi, etc. Run by Mark Felt, by the way. The Deep Throat was the deep state. It was Mark Felt, who, by the way, he was so good at his job, he snookered Nixon into lobbying Reagan to giving him a pardon when he was the guy who took Nixon out. I had this debate with Ben Bradley before it was publicly known, the editor of the Washington Post, many, many years ago in the early 90s, before it was known that Mark Felt was the guy, because I kind of had a hunch it was, for a range of reasons. But so there's no credibility to this, and quit buying into just because their criticism of Israel is correct, doesn't mean every other commentary they have is. And she's going to lose that suit to Macron. You want a free pick out there, folks? Go out there and predict that on the trading markets and predict that that Candace Owens will lose to Brigitte. Can you imagine losing to Brigitte Macron? How embarrassing is that?
Is there a market for that?
By itself.
There's no market for that, is there?
Yeah, there is on Kalshi now.
About the Macron lawsuit?
Yeah.
Well, hold on.
I think it is there. It's either there or Polymarket.
Let me see. I'm going to see because
if you just search Macron
Brigitte Macron wins the defamation lawsuit against Candace before 2028. I'm not waiting a year and a half. I still think she's going to lose, Robert. But I think Macron.
Yeah, it depends on you. But so people got to know how to exercise some discernment through all of these things. You can be absolutely critical. We have always said, even when I was defending Israel and we were defending Israel, that you can be critical of Israel without being anti-Semitic. This idea of equating Zionism with Judaism is it's a bad idea because it's going to lead to things like what happened in Michigan this week. Somebody apparently had family that died in Lebanon connected to Israel's latest attacks in Lebanon, went and attacked a synagogue in Michigan. Why is he attacking a synagogue? It's not like that's the Israeli synagogue. For all he knew, people in that synagogue don't approve of Israel, like many Orthodox Jews don't, like many liberal and left Jews don't. So I hate but they do it for the same reason the left uses racist and sexist and misogynist to run people off of legitimate criticism of men participating in women's sports. I did love it. Was it you who highlighted that crazy state House representative or state senator who was like, when I was a woman, I always wanted to compete against men. Yeah, sure. I'm sure the lightweight would love to beat the heavyweight. That doesn't mean you force him to compete with him to win.
Okay, so hold on. So we'll put it. It was objective defamation. We'll see if the guy gets sued. Retracting it, you delete the original so that people stop sharing it without knowing that there's been a correction, and stop being a bunch of effing idiots. People out there, you want to criticize people, you don't do it with lies and just do the slightest.
Bash a widow who all she's doing is maintaining Turning Point with its activism on local and a Charlie Kirk show that's one of the only prominent conservative shows still being honest about platforming critics of the Iran war. So those criticisms are ill-deserved, ill-suited. There's tons of libels. If Erika Kirk decides to sue these people, she'll win every single one of them. If Andrew decides to sue any of them, he'll win a bunch of them. Contrary to, I think what people will find out in a year or two is that the pro-Israel donors already cut off Turning Point. They're no longer contributing or helping Turning Point. That crowd. That they're just trying to stay consistent to Charlie's balanced legacy of wanting to support and protect Trump and being against a regime change war in Iran. And I think they've done it fairly well for a couple of young kids, especially if you contrast it to, say, Blaze or Fox News or the institutional conservative outlets out there.
I love delusional people with like multiple letters and numbers in their names. Barnes is this is from Theo KV7CJ. Barnes is going to look foolish after Trump wins again. Of course, little Viva believes everything Barnes believes in.
Well, hey, look,
Hey,
if
what's
you really
amazing-
believe that that if Trump keeps up these policies, that it will lead to the Republicans winning the House and the Senate in the midterms, then please DM me on X or email me otherwise. Because I'll be happy to take your money in a wager. And I'm not doing it for cruelty purposes. I'm doing it because the world can't have stupid people having that much money or resources around. So that you need to be separated from your money for the sake of the public in America.
There was another comment that said, Viva, check out the spot prices while Barnes is bloviating. I can't find that comment, but this is from an hour ago. U.S. oil prices top 100 as Trump administration threatens strikes.
It's 140 if you're trying to buy it physically. And in the expectation by most oil estimates, there's a bunch of people out there that are really good at this. Their estimates are $150 to $200 if this continues for another month or so.
Well, let's
just go to your local gas station. Haven't you seen it there?
Well,
how much is it already up? 25%, 30%?
I think, but for me, I think it was about, I want to say at least 15%. But the funny thing is,
California, it's over $8 a gallon.
Yeah, but that's because they're a bunch of
diesel
criminals.
Diesel's even worse. And the reason, and why does diesel matter? That goes into all the transport costs for all the truckers. And there's a bunch of critical fertilizer that comes out of there. There's key things that come out of the Gulf that go into high-end chips. I mean, if you study people that's all they do, who have no bone in the fight one way or the other politically or about the war, they will just explain the economic consequences are drastic and dramatic if this continues. People listen to the Fox News slop and all the fake influencers online. People who said, I would never back Trump if he goes to war, are now like, well, I'm for Trump no matter what he says or does. They're this cultish. A good king starts to go mad. Has Wormtongue whispering in his ear like Lord of the Rings. You don't help him by saying, yes, listen to Wormtongue. Yes, jump off the cliff. You help him by warning and warning and warning of how dangerous and risky what he's doing is.
It's funny. No one would have ever believed the anecdote. I was at the gas station and I'm filling up my car and there's a Latino woman in front of me, middle-aged. And then I'm filling up a Bronco. So it's like, big and it was like 60, whatever. And then she actually made a comment about the price of gas, which I thought it's very funny. No one would believe it if I shared that on Twitter. They say, "Oh, things that never happened for 800." But I thought it was funny.
Remember the Joe Biden stickers? I did that on all the gas stations across the country. They're going to have Trump ones. I did that all across the country coming soon. Now the big oil companies will make a killing, no doubt about that. But the ordinary American is going to be suffering from this. And usually, what happens with gas price spikes like this, if they continue for any period of time, like 6 weeks or so, by most economic estimations, it triggers deflation because it triggers deep recession because people just can't afford the goods. They can't afford the shipping and the transport and the rest. You also have famine risk because the fertilizer that's key that comes out of the Gulf that can't get out. And you have famine risk there locally. You have desalination. If those Israel was hitting the desalination plants in Iran. If Iran reciprocates against the Gulf states or Israel, you've got a huge disaster because they rely on those desalination plants for water. In addition, they rely on the Straits of Hormuz to get food in. What happens if they can't get food? You have multiple layers and levels of crises that can occur if we don't wrap our arms around this. And you've got talk of drafts and nuclear weapons, which should be terrifying people when you're hearing that talk from influential people, like talking about the draft with the press secretary herself. What she should have said is there is no chance that is ever going to happen. If that talk builds, I'll talk about why the draft is unconstitutional. And another debate item I had years ago with Professor Dershowitz. Hopefully we don't ever have to worry about that. But the more Trump hears the bad news, the better chance he gets out of this insanity. Everybody cheerleading him is doing the same thing they did early in COVID. They're cheerleading him off a cliff.
Total shift. We're not even coming back to this, Robert. We're done with Iran. We're done with whatever makes people unhappy when you ostensibly criticize Trump.
Although we do still have 2 more topics on Israel.
Oh, cripe. Let's just do them right now. So the International Court of Justice. What was actually, okay.
What do you think about the rapist walking and Bibi Netanyahu saying it's, well, supposedly Bibi, we don't know. Maybe it's a fake account, or maybe it's someone else writing his account. About saying it's blood libel to even talk about the case.
Robert, I'll bring up the red. Okay, for those who don't know, there was an infamous, notorious case of, I say alleged. In my understanding, there wasn't really an alleged to it. It was sort of on video, but the video's indeterminate. I'm not going to play the video, though the video shows nothing. I'm going to read it to you. This is from the Red-Headed Libertarian, and these are, generally speaking, accepted. I say accepted facts. The medical I'm going to give you the medical findings according to the testimony of the Israeli doctors who treated this man, who was a Palestinian detainee, including Israeli Dr. Yoel Donshin, anesthesiologist, Hadassah University hospitals, who treated him at both places. It's going to be very difficult to read. I encourage you to scroll if you have a weak stomach. Medical findings included ruptured bowel, tear in the rectum, severe anal rectal injuries, punctured lung, broken ribs, blunt force trauma to the chest, required surgery. A large, round, and pointed object was inserted into the detainee's rectum, causing a bowel tear. Blood on his underwear. You can see it. I'm not playing the video. This was the video. And I did observe at the end, when October 7 happened and people were arguing as to whether or not some of the victims were sexually assaulted, before being murdered or whatever. And there was a video of a girl coming out of a truck and her pants were bloodied on the backside and towards horrific stuff. But that's what people then were saying. Well, that's evidence of sexual abuse. I saw that in this video as well. Now, this video is just of guards with their shields in a circle for whatever the reason for an extended period of time while they have a Palestinian detainee who was then later hospitalized. I didn't think there was much dispute about it. And it turns out that they dropped the charges, or they ended the investigation because of evidentiary challenges. They said the prosecutors lacked key evidence because the detainee was returned to Gaza, so it would make prosecution difficult. That there were video evidence concerns that the video would make it difficult to convict based on what the individuals were alleged to have done by way of abuse. That one of the soldiers went on they were parading him around on a talk show last week. I don't know that there's anything positive to say about this. I don't know how anybody gets to dropping this investigation and claiming that these accused soldiers were innocent. It's not, I say it's going to sound stupid, not anti-Semitic. In every war, soldiers do heinous, horrendous things. Even on the side of America, it's not anti-American to acknowledge that American soldiers in times of war have done heinous things. It doesn't represent America's zeitgeist. It's despite and not representative of. What do you make of this? I mean, other than it being totally political and absolutely outlandish and untenable, do you have any attenuating or anything to say on this?
So the whistleblower, there was an Israeli whistleblower who blew the case on this, who disclosed all of this. And one is, it appears systematic. In other words, you have 2 officers bringing this Palestinian detainee in, and they take him up against the wall. And then immediately these guys get around and put their shields up so that the cameras can't see what they're doing to them. As if they knew what they were supposed to be doing right away. As if this was not their first time, nor probably the last time. So this appears to give affirmation to allegations of systemic rape, sodomy, abuse, assault of Palestinian detainees by Israeli forces. What bothered me far more is how the government and the Israeli public responded to this. Some parts of the Israeli public have treated these rapist sodomizers as heroes, as people to cheer, including Bibi Netanyahu himself. Remember that when it's going to come out at some point that Israel is the one that gave us the targeting location to hit that little girls' school in Iran. This is who Bibi is. And I fear that the Israeli public has been so dehumanized, much as part of the U.S. public was after 9/11, after October 7th, that they celebrate now just flat out evil, and that they have become the evil. They have looked into the pit and they've stared at the abyss, and they have become the monster that they swore to defeat. And the fact that this case was dismissed without prosecution, that it was then celebrated in the Israeli public, and then Bibi Netanyahu said it's blood libel to talk about it. I mean, this is insanity. This is moral depravity. This is something we should have no affiliation or association with. This is something that if anybody else did it, we would be talking about it nonstop. If Russia did it, if Iran did it, we would be hearing nothing about it but this. And this is, it is a war crime. It is a crime under Israeli law. Credit to the Israeli whistleblowers who blew the whistle. Credit to the doctor who blew the whistle. But damnation on Bibi Netanyahu for apologizing for this, covering it up, making sure it got dismissed, and then saying it's a blood libel if you talk about him being the worst living war criminal alive today.
Well, speaking of which, to pivot to the last one, and then we're going to get to we'll get to Facebook after this. International Criminal Court of Justice, the U.S. is intervening in allegations or charges against Israel for committing genocide, looking to define or at least limit the application of the concept of genocide, that it has to have genocidal intent. We've talked about this, or at least I've talked about this at under the, I forget which, not the Geneva Code, but wherever, the Genocide Convention of 50 or 40 some odd.
The Geneva Convention.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it defines genocide in a very broad way that includes linguistic suppression, depopulation.
That's Mearsheimer's point, that the UN and the convention that they're enforcing is broader than the colloquial understanding of genocide. My understanding of genocide is the colloquial understanding, which is your point to eliminate, at least in part, people from living. And what the Geneva Convention and the ICJ, International Court of Justice under the Rome Statute, has a broader definition, as Professor Mearsheimer articulated, which is if your goal is just to erase their national identity, not to kill them, just to erase their national identity, that's genocidal and genocide. Under that definition, I mean, I thought what Israel was trying to do was ethnic cleansing under the traditional definition, trying to basically purge Gaza of as many Palestinians as they could, with the goal of sending them elsewhere, not mass murdering them. But under that legal definition, which is much more broader and much more expansive, you can see Mearsheimer's argument has plausibility. Mm-hmm. And what's happening is because Israel keeps isolating itself and marginalizing itself with these, I think they invaded or bombed 7 or 8 different countries in the last year. The only person who topped that was the peace president himself, Donald J. Trump, sadly. Is that they are becoming more and more marginal globally. They have fewer and fewer allies. In America today, more Americans sympathize with Palestinians than with Israel for the first time in the history of that public opinion survey, which has been conducted since 1948. That's how bad their public opinion for them has utterly collapsed. They're attacking a Catholic conservative who was on the Religious Liberty Commission because she opposed the pro-Israeli bias of that commission, and Trump went along with firing her because Bibi Netanyahu just plays like this and the Israel donors do like this, and Donald Trump can't wait to dance to their tune. And so, and I think what's happening is you're going to see Israel and this is why I think if you're a pro-Israeli person out there, if you're Mark Robert and you see Nazis under the bus and outside your window every night, you should want Israel to start to restrain itself, because this could endanger the future of Israel itself. You're seeing more and more nations join this ICJ intervention and against Israel. Israel cannot afford to have literally no allies in the entire world. You can, as Brandon Weischer, who we had on Thursday, national security expert, a guy who was going to be part of the Trump administration, publicly promoted and supported Trump despite all kinds of criticism for a decade in his field. He pointed out the Abraham Accords are dead because of the Iranian conflict and because of Israel's behavior in both Lebanon and Gaza and Syria and now Iran. So for Israel's best benefit, for its own long-term longevity, for its own sustained security, it needs to cut bait from Bibi Netanyahu, and it needs to get back to being defensive, not aggressive, and it needs to restore the values it claims to champion, of values of human rights and human liberties. And you don't do that by doing ethnic cleansing. You don't do it by bombing girls' schools. You don't do it by bombing residential neighborhoods in Lebanon. You don't do it by being led by the Bibi Netanyahu war criminals of the world. And you don't do it by letting rapists walk and celebrating them in the streets.
With that said, people, we're going to move on to other stuff now, but not before I go over.
We got white pill with the Facebook trial, hopefully with a jury verdict.
Well, yeah,
we got online kids risk the California laws, DEI being challenged in court, or at least grants canceling it. a former birthright citizenship being affirmed in Italy. The Ketam, big winner against Big Pharma, another white pill. A good torture verdict outcome. Not that torture is good, but a white pill that there's going to be people held accountable for what happened in Abu Ghraib. A big white pill and a First Amendment win for little kids who can go to BLM and still stay in school. And another big win against trans lunatics trying to get federal taxpayer dollars to convert them, into different genders.
Oh, I see. I shouldn't take this. This person might be talking to someone else in the chat. I hope you lose all your viewers. Well, Missy Kin, thank you for being here. Thank you for the engagement in the chat. And if I go read some of your other comments, Barnes, you stay away from kids. Oh yeah, you sound like a reasonable person. Piss off. You can go away, young lady. Oh, but you're still here.
Never substantively respond. It's never like this logic or this argument or this. It's always some sort of name calling, some sort of personal attack, some sort of they think that we're motivated by people tuning in. We're motivated by the beliefs and ideas and ideals we have to make the world a better and safer place.
People think people don't tune in once people realize you cater your opinions to the whim or the will of the audience. So good riddance to bad rubbish.
Obviously, those people haven't been around for a while. Because we've stepped on many inconvenient third rails at different times, whether it was COVID, including against Trump, COVID, vaccine, Sidney Powell, Lynn Wood,
Amy Coney Barrett, Cronister.
Epstein files. Who ended up being right about that? Iran is using the Epstein files. Iran is using it against us.
It's hurting them because we gave them the idea. We weren't actually warning anybody in advance.
That's the reason why Joe Rogan is being critical. That's the reason why Tim Dillon is being critical. That's the reason why Theo Vaughn is being critical. That's why Tucker Carlson is being critical. That's why Alex Jones is being critical. That's why Harrison Smith is being critical. That's why Savannah Hernandez is being critical. That's why Owen Schroyer is being critical. It's because Barnes and Viva brainwashed them.
Caliban, this is over in local, says erase national identity is genocide. So what of the democratic socialists in America are doing? I made that comment when they said like crushing linguistic independence or linguistic identity. That's what I mean. And I said like Quebec is committing genocide against Anglos if it's localized. I said the definition was always too broad.
And for the record, yes, I agree. I think the colloquial definition of genocide should be the legal definition of genocide. I don't like conflating the two. No. These other things you can have as separate crimes or separate bad acts, the suppression of national identity, the attempts to erase national, etc. But they shouldn't be thrown into the category of genocide.
Buffalo Betsy, the rape of the Palestinian detainee prisoner is especially disturbing and just heartshattering, depraved. Chris Kraft.
I was shocked. I was more shocked by the Israeli reaction. People forget. People think I'm just targeting Israel. People in the U.S., I dealt with them here after 9/11. We're fine with what happened at Abu Ghraib. We're fine with what was happening at Guantanamo. We're fine with the illegal renditions. We're fine with suspending privacy rights for the Patriot Act. We're fine with suspending all of it because they were so filled with rage that, in fact, I often use a story in my closing arguments to give this example to jurors that comes, I think, from a Twilight Zone episode. What happens is a woman comes home and tells her husband she's been assaulted. The husband is filled with rage and demands she go with him to find him. And they're driving down the street. And she goes, "Oh, my God, that's him. That's him." He jumps out filled with rage, chases the man down, beats him to his death. Gets back in the car, starts to go home. And she goes, "Oh, no, that's him. That's him." He has a moment of doubt, but not enough. He jumps out of that car, chases him down, beats him to his death with that righteous sense of vengeance. And then as he gets back in the car and gets home, she points out every single person she sees. She's been so traumatized, she's not an objective, reliable witness. And he realizes he just murdered 2 innocent men. So be careful of letting that passion drive you into, as Kierkegaard so brilliantly said, as you quoted, be careful when you look into the abyss, because when you stare at the abyss stares back at you.
I've been corrected. I think it might have been Nietzsche. And I said, great, now I'm going to get community to know that. Chris Kraft says,
Antonio, Jew, self-loathing Jew.
Bill, I want to go ahead on record and thank you. You know the truth, says Chris Kraft. RB Ham says, Viva, what was done to the prisoner is not an isolated incident. According to Israel human rights organizations, this is done routinely. Israel's consider Arabs subhuman. They are Amalek and deserve to be exterminated. There's no coming back from this.
Did you see that in one of Bibi's recent speeches, that he, in the Hebrew, he referenced Amalek as all of the Iranians? That's a call for genocide. I was shocked. I was like, clearly he didn't, and he did.
I'm trying to get off of the Israeli.
This guy has lost his friggin' mind. Put him in a nut house someplace.
Jonathan G94 says, when's VRA Section 2 coming down at SCOTUS, and will states be able to redraw congressional lines prior to midterms, which will help?
Unfortunately, they decided to screw Trump over on that because I thought that would be issued by now. If they wait another month, almost no states are going to be able to redistrict, and they'll just doubly screw Trump.
Ithaca 37, Cato, any sign Trump made a deal with Putin following the call they had?
No, in fact, just the opposite. Here's my start to apply a confession through projection filter on Trump's tweets and comments. So when he says Iran is begging for a ceasefire, but I'm not ready for their terms yet, it's the opposite. Trump is begging for a ceasefire, but Iran is not ready to accept the terms that Trump has put because Trump doesn't want to accept, according to published reports, Putin's terms. He's going to have to come to terms with this at some point. Hopefully he does so in such a way. I mean, go back and listen to the Lyndon Johnson tapes. And I've been a long-time critic of Lyndon Johnson. But Lyndon Johnson knew the whole time he was building up in Vietnam, it was a disaster. But he talked himself into it's called the escalatory ladder. I think it's Professor Pape. Has been around for a long time, been on a range of interviews, talked about how dangerous this is. This could lead to nuclear conflict. Predictive history has done the same analysis. So Trump has got to get off this escalatory ladder before it takes us, because this escalatory ladder don't go up, it goes down. And unless we want to end up in the pits of hell, he's got to get off that thing sooner rather than later.
Well, I'm going to read this one anyhow. Geekum says, I seem to be feeling doom and gloom more often than not during these Sunday streams. Much better on offense than I am defense. Taking a breath, 3, 5, 10-step process to pull out of this.
Hey, we're about to get into a bunch of white pills.
I don't know about that. I'm not. They didn't white pill me, Robert. Just a tip. Keep up the good work, gentlemen. Says Hack Right. Thank you very much. J45. How great would it be for Vance if Trump let Vance discover the corruption in the DOJ, break it up, reform it, send all those involved to prison before the midterms?
I think Trump's a wonderful golfer. Maybe now's a good time to just resign, let J.D. Vance be president, and go golf.
Was Trump ever MAGA, or was he just a grifter and salesman that got us to believe? I don't believe the grifter salesman.
He always was. There are people who think he is suffering early signs of front lobe dementia.
Well, you did make the joke about the vaccine. Which
Maybe the COVID booster. He'd take too many of those. Apparently,
but then everyone's like, no, he didn't take. He wouldn't take the real thing. Well, meanwhile, he issued the press release that he took his flu shot and COVID booster with his Christmas flu shot.
He was thrilled and bragged about it. But one interesting thing, one of the more disturbing signs, one is signs of true losing it, shutting out. The art of the deal was Trump. I mean, I read this as a kid. It's my favorite. My dad died. I had 2 books that I read. Robert carried around with me all the time. One was Robert Kennedy Sr.'s To Seek a Newer World, and the other was Donald Trump's Art of the Deal. And there was a quote I never forgot from the time I was 12. It said, "Expect the best, but plan for the worst." You combine idealism with realism, and you get the best combination for motivations to have the best outcome. Trump is scrapping the realism. He's abandoning the realism. And that makes him be the bad side of positive thinking is it becomes wishful thinking. It becomes hallucinatory, delusional thinking. I think that's one issue. The other issue with front lobe dementia, if he is experiencing any aspect of this, you lose empathy. And Trump was always very empathetic. In the past, he'd be very bothered when soldiers died. He'd be he tried to always limit any foreign attacks to where there was no minimal civilian death. And now he's showing even when Americans die. It's like if they die, they die. That's it. People die in war. I never saw that side of Trump. So either it was buried all along and just is suddenly coming out now and it was all just an act. I don't believe it was. I believe somehow he's just fallen off the wagon mentally or morally or both, in such a way that it's endangering his own legacy as well as the country.
That was from Blue CW Soldier 3. Thank you. Bill, as a reformed boomer and as a result of Robert, I now realize the value of you and your people. Dang, that's Chris Kraft. Cousin Eddie says, last message might have been confusing. Mobile units get one shot and then get destroyed by a HARM missile. Iran can take shots at aircraft, but they have very few left. Jonathan,
listen to Professor Ted Postal. He did a deep study of what we did in Iran and Iraq in 1991, again 23. He says that's all garbage. He says our ability to take out mobile launchers is greatly overrated, greatly exaggerated, and that's why there's the mass censorship in the UAE, mass censorship of our bases from satellite photos, mass censorship in Israel, is because we are not having the success that we are pretending we have publicly. And, this is an MIT professor with deep ties to the national security apparatus, has advised and consulted with them many, many times. And he says, quite frankly, not only can these interceptors not even interfere with these ballistic missiles, also Lieutenant Colonel Davis, Colonel McGregor, others that went through it and lived it, were there in Iraq, said, we took out all the Scud missiles. Turned out we didn't. Turned out 90% of them we missed. So this is mostly illusory, our claims that we have destroyed 100% of their missile supply or anywhere close to it.
I'm going to zip through these. Dominant One says, women enjoy good health and nutrition by putting Anton's firm and juicy meat in their mouths. Backdoor delivery is not available. Duck Fat says, will those cheering on this war only if short-term still be considered traitors if it ends in 1 month? If Trump ends this in 30 days and declares mission accomplished, will Barnes consider it a success?
So two things. One, I'm not calling anybody a traitor for supporting the war. I'm saying if you call other people anti-American for opposing the war, that's traitorous to our constitutional history and liberty. Secondly, if Trump can get out of this in the next couple of weeks with minimal economic and geopolitical blowback, I think, and then he reverses course and course corrects on immigration, does start doing the mass deportations, course corrects on the Justice Department, course corrects on medical freedom and political freedom and financial freedom.
That's a big
the whole
if,
agenda. 1776 Law Center spent tons of money out of its own pocket to give them an entire roadmap of very popular populist policies that they could enact at the executive level, not even require, in some cases, legislative reform. If they do that, then he can reverse course. If he doesn't do both, then I'm afraid the midterms are doomed.
Okay, we got here. Hold on one second. None of this would have happened if Trump had Doge finish their cuts in the FBI, CIA, DOJ, EPA.
Amen to that. And audit Fort Knox. Let's go back and audit Fort Knox.
We would have cut the deep state and Epstein, and everything else would have been done. F Donald Trump. I'm reading this, people. This is Joe Donati. F Donald Trump, con artist. No promises kept. Arrest Tucker Carlson. Arrest Tucker before Epstein. We'll see if it's even accurate with Tucker. Start World War III. Cause global depression. I wish he hadn't moved. No, I'm not saying that. Okay, I'm not saying that either. Crash Bandit says, I live in Washington. Diesel was $6.25 15 minutes ago on my way home. FML, LOL. Fuck my life, laugh out loud. John Hallett, David Chambers, and myself, members of the 1 PPCL, told all fellow units in war, anyone Craper, the first bullet was for them. And Sean 487, I hate to be proven right. When is it a black pill? When it's a black pill, I mentioned months ago that Trump's international aggression was out of control, i.e. Greenland was laughed at. Greenland wasn't out of control. Right. It wasn't. But anyway, okay.
Sadly.
All right. First of all,
we got plenty of, at least I consider them white pills. The outside of all the craziness surrounding us, maybe no nuclear war happens. Maybe no global depression happens. Maybe Trump is on his road to Damascus, sees Jesus, and returns home to his fellow true Christians, not the ones waiting for the apocalypse or preaching it in the military. And we got several. I think this could be a huge game-changing verdict for the peace of mind of the American people and our children, and for getting finally some remedy against big tech.
This is the Meta lawsuit against Meta, was it Instagram as well, alleging that they basically made their products to be deliberately addictive for children, despite knowing of the harms. They got through the full trial. There was some interesting testimony, but they got through the full trial and are now, it's going to go to jury deliberations on Monday for whether or not these social media companies are liable for the harms caused by their product. They were trying to argue Section 230 immunity, and they're saying you're not being held liable for bullying or other content on the platform. This is a product design. It's a class action, right? It's a class action.
Yeah, this is just the first test case of it. So it's a single case, so it's not the whole class on trial, but it can set the factual predicates for the future cases. So and big outcome potential, because it'd be collateral estoppel against the defendants in other cases.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm looking up some of the facts. I mean, basically, we already know that they allege that they deliberately designed it to perpetuate addictive behavior, to hook kids, knowing, even though they weren't supposed to be targeting kids, knowing the harm it was causing to kids, and it went through a full trial, which I didn't watch it, so it's tough to try to pick out the highlights of it.
I don't think it was televised.
No, but
it should have been. It was in state court, and it annoyed me that it wasn't televised, because this would have been an interesting case to listen to. But basically, it's the combination of 3 techniques by Meta and YouTube and Google and others in the big tech world: infinite scroll, autoplay, and filters. They targeted children with these particular aspects of their apps. They knew it increased addiction. They knew it caused mental health harm, and they did it anyway because they cared about the money they could make, the eyeballs they could keep on their programs and apps, no matter how destructive it was to the souls and psyche of our own children. And you can see that reflected. There is a direct correlation. Correlation isn't always causation, but you can't have causation without correlation. Between, and it's a pretty determinative correlation that strongly suggests and infers causation, between the well-being of young women and the introduction of social media to them in their teenage years and in their late, from the age of 8 onward, including 3 to 5x increase, 3 to 5x increase in self-harm, 3 to 5x harm in self-mutilation, 3 to 5x harm in terms of anxiety medications being prescribed, depression medications being prescribed, all of these disastrous effects on the mental health of young girls that experienced, though, and you know who didn't experience it? Amish, because they ain't on big tech. They ain't on social media.
And I mean, just it's the allegation or the argument is that it was engineered addiction and not ancillary, not incidental. They knew of it, they designed for it, and I mean, it's interesting.
And their own former engineers testified to this at trial. They said they knew it. They said that's what they were doing. It said they intended to do it. They said they were warned Zuckerberg about it. He didn't care. He wanted the profit. He wanted to maximize gain. But guess what the corporate lawyers did? I mean, I always want to ask these corporate lawyers I go up against. I was like, what's it like to be a corporate whore? What's it like to sell your soul? Is this what you went to law school for? To stick money in your pockets and sabotage young kids? I've always wondered. But guess who they blamed for her depression and anxiety?
Parents?
Parents and her. It's her fault. She's just a screwed up kid. We were trying to help this screwed up kid. Can you imagine saying that with a straight face to a jury? I mean, they're so disgusting.
Well, I mean, I don't know we don't know how long they're going to deliberate for. Have we done closing arguments? I think we've done closing arguments, and it goes into deliberation.
Jury deliberation starts on Monday. Now, there's another case where closing arguments are about to start, and that's the case a whole bunch of folks in what used to be known as LawTube are covering, which is the Richens murder. This is a wild one. Oh, first of all, just to finish up on the Facebook, well, no, I was just going to say that reading it, and when I read it, and swap out the word social media with tobacco, and it almost is a virtually identical, fact pattern, legal pattern. We'll see how it pans out by way of jury. I think it's going to be. I do think they're going to get their asses handed to them by this jury, because I think everybody on that jury knows what this stuff is like, and as parents, we all have to deal with it. What's the person's name again? Richmond? It wasn't. What's the woman? R-I-C-H. So it's like Rich and then ins. So she allegedly killed her husband by fentanyl overdose after allegedly having attempted to have done it previously where he didn't die but got sick. And then after she allegedly killed her husband with a fentanyl overdose, the theory of the case was based on motive, opportunity, and there's a third one I always forget. Motive means opportunity. And they allege that this woman was deeply in debt from some failed business ventures. She needed the money, life insurance, whatever. So she deliberately OD'd her husband with fentanyl by putting it in some drink that she had made for him. I think Coca-Cola or something. Yeah, no, it was I think it was an alcoholic beverage, if I'm not mistaken. But with the Coke too, or something like that. Yeah, and then the husband dies. Then she writes a book on grief to capitalize off the death. Capitalize, if you think she's guilty, or that's cope the allegation. With, yeah, capitalize if you think she's guilty. Cope with if you don't think she's guilty. But she seemed to have had a fentanyl dealer who testified against her after having been promised or granted full immunity, which makes me always skeptical as to whether or not there's nobody that lies more than rats, especially a drug dealer rat. So you have no real independent evidence that this guy gave her something. As far as I know from the trial, I only caught glimpses of it. So Nick Rekieta is covering it in great detail. Also, what's her name? I'm blanking on her name. Yeah, there's Baker, Emily Baker. Yes, Emily Baker. Emily Baker. She is. I think she lives up the road from me in Tennessee. Used to be a very well-respected state prosecutor in California. She's covering this trial in great detail. So I've seen bits and glimpses of their coverage, and they tend to be really good with their trial coverage. So it's good to see Nick back in the saddle with another trial coverage. As he gets back his channel and gets back in the game. I'm going to watch the closing arguments on Monday. So I'm going to try to catch some glimpses of it. I try to do this as a lawyer to learn, to develop, to constantly improve your skill set as a as a lawyer, as a storyteller, as a narrator, and as someone who does arguments both to courts and juries, judges and juries alike. It'll be interesting to watch. My view has always been if you didn't watch much of the trial, but you tune into the closing arguments should be so sufficiently self-contained that they are by themselves independently persuasive, even if you checked out through the whole trial or weren't at the trial. So that to me is a sign of a good, competent, capable closing argument delivery. So if you want, tune in, watch the prosecutors, watch the defense lawyers. Don't have to watch any of the rest of the trial and say, okay, did they convince me beyond a reasonable doubt that she committed this murder?
It's the idea of giving immunity to the drug dealer. Lord knows who was on drugs in the family, but I'm not even sure what. So apparently they closed their case. They rested their case without calling any witnesses in defense, presumably because they feel that the prosecution did not, beyond a shadow of a doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt.
That's what you usually do. Two reasons to do that. They sometimes, I remember in the Snipes case, they called it the penthouse or shithouse defense. That either you're going to win big or go down bad. But there's two issues with whenever you try to present a defense at all, the problem becomes psychologically, even though the jury's not supposed to do it, they shift the burdens in their minds. They go from, okay, the government has to prove something to me, to now you, the defendant, have to prove something to me. Legally, in our criminal cases, that's never the case, but that's what happens psychologically. And so it ends up being a high-risk gamble to put somebody on yourself. To me, I've always tried to do in criminal cases, prove my case through the prosecution's own witnesses, because it's the most persuasive mechanism of convincing a jury. If you've got to present a defense, then you're already on defense with the jury in ways that is more risk than reward, typically.
All right, now hold on. Hold up. No, I'll come back to that afterwards. Okay, so that was Facebook. Well, no, that's what I did want to get to before we get on too far from this. Whatever happened to the Facebook getting sued for lying to everyone about their views, small business ad purchase?
To my knowledge, that class action is still pending. I haven't heard any update since it was originally filed. They're facing class actions all over the place for a range of issues, but this one in LA could be the one that breaks the back of big tech.
Right. Absolutely. Are you going to check out Joe McBride's new podcast? I'm not sure who that is. But
the name vaguely rings a bell, but I'm not sure.
All right, Robert. Well, first of all, how many cases do we have left? Because we got to take the party on over to the
we got trans trying to claim the taxpayers have to give them under Medicaid the right to change the gender from the one God gave them. We got a big First Amendment win for a little elementary school kid taking on BLM. We've got Ketam, another white pill win against Big Pharma. We've got Italy court affirming, something people hope the U.S. Supreme Court does, which is the right of the government to limit the scope of citizenship definitions. We've got speaking of online cases, there was a California case went to the Ninth Circuit on the ability to regulate big tech in the area of privacy and access to children. We've got a DEI grant case where the Trump administration's revocation of DEI grants was reversed by a judge. And then we've got a white pill amongst the black pill, which is the Abu Ghraib victims being able to sue in federal court the CIA contractors who tortured them in that Iraqi prison.
Now, let me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give everybody the link to Locals. We're going to do one more here, and then we're going to go cover the rest and cover the tip questions over at Locals. But what I was going to suggest, everybody, if you're...
We'll cover two more here. We'll cover First Amendment speech and trans, because those are nice white pill moments. But if you have Rumble Premium, you'll be able to hang in there and stay with us all the way through.
We figured out how to do it. Everyone with Rumble Premium gets to enjoy the after party. Yeah, it's good. It's there. They fixed it and it's beautiful. And I think I might have made a mistake in the last week. But let's do the trans one first, because Robert, I do want to bring this up. We don't need to listen to the entire thing, but just what this what was her name now? Senator said to this volleyball player. Listen to this, people, and it'll blow your mind.
Reality matters, biology matters, and women matter. I urge your support for this bill, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have my sports hat on now. It's all about a sports mentality, growing up in sports, being a tomboy. You look pretty healthy.
You look pretty healthy. Okay.
You look pretty healthy.
You look pretty healthy.
Did she come from Deliverance? You like that pretty mouth you got there.
I've played against girls that that look like you. You look very much in shape and strong.
Equating playing against a man who's strong to
in
a woman
shape and
playing against a
strong.
woman.
How much you want to bet this chick bets the other way? You know what I mean? A bit of
this is misogyny of the highest order, and women tend to be hard on women. But listen to this.
But it's a sports mentality when you're growing up, and how much competition that you'll take on. So it's not just a silver bullet for one community of sports players. It's the individual person on how competitive you want to be.
By the way, this is the silver bullet to keep men out of women's sports. How competitive are we? Listen to what this woman has to say to this other woman.
So you grew up one way. I grew up a different way. I would have taken on a man in a heartbeat. I played in, I was the only girl sometimes in men's sports. But to have
nobody's complaining about that.
A man on my team, I would have welcomed it. But this is just my...
She would have welcomed a man on her team because it would have procured her team an unfair advantage. No shit, Sherlock.
My opinion. So it just depends on the sports mentality of that individual. Yeah. And that's why this bill is bad, because you're just putting a whole community of women's sports in one category.
Yeah, for women.
When women like me, we have a different opinion. So how competitive do you think you really are?
How competitive do you think you really are? Robert, it's mind-blowing insanity, because in that statement, she acknowledges that men procure an advantage. That's why she'd want them on their team. She's equating her willingness to play sports against a man as though that is the metric. She's saying, well, you're putting all women's sports in one category. Yes, women's sports is what it is. Do we do the First Amendment?
This was a South Park parody about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Where the man's going, and the woman has to sit there and cheer. Yeah, this is not normal. We actually had a Ninth Circuit dissent this week that said swinging dicks don't belong in women's spas. And you may be asking yourself, why am I, a judge, referencing swinging dicks in a court opinion? Because they belong in a court opinion as much as they belong in a women's spa. Remember that, I think it was Oregon or Washington case we were following about the Asian spa that they were forced, the men were invading? The Ninth Circuit said they have to allow the men into the women's spa now. Maybe they'll go up to the Supreme Court, but I think that's the first time the term swinging dicks has been referenced in a federal court opinion.
Well, unless they're talking about Dick Cheney, I don't know, swinging a baseball bat or something. No, up in Canada, we had that case of a dude named Jessica Yaniv who used to pick on foreign women to force them to wax his balls under the pretext that they couldn't deny service to a woman when he was asking them to wax his testicles. And he actually...
They went from bake the cake to wax my ball.
So the Ninth Circuit, this is in where was this? What Ninth Circuit?
Yeah, I think it was the state of Washington, where all the commies are these days.
And they basically said that these spas have to accommodate for swinging dicks.
It was a nude women's spa, all women's spa, has to allow men in. Can you imagine? We'll see if SCOTUS takes up the case. But speaking of good cases out of the Ninth Circuit and out of federal courts, we had a big one, a big win. I think this was the Fourth Circuit on trans, of men who wanted to become women, who wanted you, the taxpayer, to pay for it, as somehow they were guaranteed under Medicaid the right to have you, the taxpayer, pay for them to get their transition surgeries.
And just so people appreciate, this is what I didn't I understand it now. The decision is they were claiming Medicaid coverage for treatment of gender dysphoria, which consisted of the surgery to remove the penis or the breasts from a woman, and which Court of Appeal.
I think it was West Virginia was like, no, not going along with that. And the Fourth Circuit said there is no right under Medicaid to force the taxpayers to pay for your insanity.
Well, I think, but it did authorize Medicaid to cover treatment for gender dysphoria, just not the surgery to affirm it.
Yeah.
Right.
You can go to the nut house, not the surgeon.
A therapist, Robert, will say you can get therapy, but not surgery. No, but it's so wild that they think that the Medicaid or the Medicare should cover that which would never treat the underlying mental illness. And it's a mental illness, and there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that, much like OCD is a mental illness.
It was identified as such for almost all of human history. The DSM-V4 had it as a gender dysphoria as a mental illness. It's only in the last 10 years this insanity took off.
Hold on one second. Scrotum Viva, the testicles have no hair. One would... Yes, I apologize. The testicles are in the scrotum. I have never seen... Well, I've never seen... Never mind, I won't get into what I've seen on my testicles. Okay, funny time. After I had my testicular torsion corrected the first time, and they said stay off a bike for a couple of weeks, I did not stay off a bike for a couple of weeks, and let's just say that part of the body, the stitches are not particularly strong, and I had to go back to deal with stitches that didn't hold because I was riding a bicycle 3 days after having a testicular torsion
That's
surgery.
what the chat says. You got to take your nuts to the nut house.
What do we? So are we?
Then a big. Remember that First Amendment case we followed? The little kid did a little drawing, being critical of BLM in like elementary school during the whole BLM riot stuff.
I do remember that.
And the school like took all these adverse actions against the kid, and the district court said that's absolutely fine. You have no First Amendment rights anymore. Misapplied that. Well, it went up to the Ninth Circuit, and the Ninth Circuit said it's clear you have to be doing actions that disrupt the school from functioning or being able to operate. And if you're not, it is completely protected speech. And what the kid's drawing did not disrupt the school from operating, did not create disorder in the school. It was simply providing their opinion, which is still protected speech under the First Amendment, even for an elementary school kid who could make fun of BLM in their public school.
Now I'm wondering what happened to that kid who had the "Don't Tread on Me" on his backpack, and he got into trouble. That's a good sign because we've gone over the disruptive to activities needs to be meaningfully and not prospectively or in the mind of the hysterical loony who's flipping out over it. I saw a meme in our locals community that had the me licking the ball here. We'll get to these in our after party. Robert, what do you have coming up this week?
I was on last week with the Charlie Kirk show. We had the fun interview with Brandon Weichert. You were on with Mark Lynch on Wednesday. Let's see, and what else there was? I was on with Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis on Friday. But this week, probably tomorrow, going to be on with Tom Woods, the libertarian, analyzing what's happening to Tucker Carlson. Is that a violation of First Amendment rights? Is that something that can be legally done to commentators on the anti-war side or anti-surveillance state side of the equation? And we'll have otherwise some bourbons throughout the week. We may have a guest sidebar on, but I haven't heard back from them yet.
I hope not. I realize it's spring break and we're going to be on the road on Tuesday to, I say, Thursday or Friday. So
okay. All right. Well, that makes it easier. I'll ask them if they can come next week. And then it appears I thought I'd be off Thursday through Sunday because I love March Madness. It's one of my favorite times of year since the time I was a kid. But apparently I got to get dragged into court. In fact, I might have to go to California and to Pennsylvania somehow at the same time. So I got to figure that part out. Because they're trying to invade the Discovery. Misusing, and abusing Discovery as a fishing expedition to get into everything related to Amos Miller that unrelates to their case. The harassment of Amos Miller continues unabated by the state of Pennsylvania. And again, if you want to help support Amos Miller, you can come to the outdoor picnic. There'll be indoors and outdoors. That's up at our vivabarneslaw.locals.com board. There's a pinned reference to the fundraiser being done on April 11th up there with it will be all of his own food, some of the best food in the world, some of the best meals cooked by him and his family with a whole tour of the farm, see the animals, meet the family. And remember, you can't bring cameras or recording because that's against Amish tradition. So it's a unique opportunity, but also get to support Amos Miller. So I'll be on with Tom Woods some point tomorrow. And then probably we'll have bourbons throughout the week at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. And if you want the little hush-hush alternative narrative of the Rothschild family, you can find that pinned as well at vivabarneslaw.locals.com.
Get your butts on over there, people. We're going to end this now. I will hopefully be able to not have too many problems this week in terms of live streaming. But Joe McBride is the Tate's lawyer. Okay, well that makes more sense now. I will definitely check. I'm going to see if he's following each other on Twitter.
Oh, I know he did some January 6 cases.
Okay, excellent. We're going to go there, and Rumble Premium is going to get to come along for the ride. So everybody, if you're not... Oh, we got a raid. Hold on one second. They seem to not have the standard layout for tonight. Who wants to watch an Oscar party? I can't raid...
It's probably because of the Oscars, right? I got some wagers on a couple of Oscars, so let's hope those commie kooks don't go crazy again and do something reasonable.
I look, if If Frankenstein wins, you'll hear me being very happy. I don't want to link to.
I'll be okay with Sinners too. Think about it. It's Hollywood. What is a more appropriate Oscar in Hollywood than a film called Sinners?
Well, it's a horror movie. I don't know when the last horror movie ever won Best Picture is, but Frankenstein should win and deserves to win. So, who are we going to rate?
I agree.
Do we want?
But the big favorite is that commie Antifa movie, one battle after another.
70 some odd percent still.
Have you seen that yet?
Yeah, it's what
it didn't say. It was not even a good film.
It was absolute garbage, and I'm not trying to say it was garbage. I was trying to like it. Mark Robert and I were going to do that for the first week of Viva and Lord Buckley Go to the Movies. The movie was laughably stupid. It starts off with a comically stupid bunch of it starts off with a sex scene with a black woman and Sean Penn, who's supposed to be racist, and then she arouses him while they're kidnapping basically Border Patrol agents. Then you find out that he had a child with her, but that's going to somehow undermine his racist reputation with these frat, this sort of racist organization that he's a part of. So he has to go and kill the daughter of the. I'm going to ruin it for everybody. It's the worst piece of shit movie you've ever seen, and I like P.T. Anderson. Just garbage through and through. A movie that makes me dislike Leonardo DiCaprio, you screwed up. So just garbage through and through. We're going to go raid Badlands. They're live. I was going to raid with Oscar night, but that'll probably piss too many people off. Salty Cracker is also live, but he doesn't let us raid. So go to Badlands Media, let him know from whence he came, and we are going to head on over to the after party. Viva Raid. Booyah. And now that's it. All right, so terrible movies. Frankenstein wins. I would say drinks are on me, but they won't be. If Frank, I'm going to be following it. So everyone go.
Any UFC pick Saturday?
I did well yesterday, except I think I got 9 of 9. I got over 2/3. But
oh wow,
yeah, it's good. But I'm just picking. It's it's stupid. I don't. People do parlays. I'm not into that. But it was there were some good fights and some good upsets. But it was a good night. Okay, people, come on over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com and Rumble Premium. Right now, we're doing it. No, by clicking the stream, your stream will become available to premium subscribers only and locals. Boom. Every time.